All right, we are live.
Stand by. Let me make sure it shows up on YouTube.
Just tell me when, Charles.
Yes, sir. Stand by. Yes, we are a go.
Thank you, Charles. I'd like to call the council meeting to order on June 4th. Do we have any special intentions today? Councilman Wilmot? Unmute.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I have a special intention. Ernest Woot recently passed away. He's a former longtime sheriff of Plaquemine Parish and a former Louisiana state representative who was the chairman of criminal justice. He was a man of big character who was known for making bold statements. There was never a dull moment around Wooten. He's a good man. Please keep him and his family in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Wilmot. Anyone else have a special attention? Councilmember Brennan?
Thank you, Council President. Yes, Paul Saragusa, a longtime District 5 resident and member of Divine Mercy Men's Club, St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish. He passed away recently. Just to keep his family in our prayers as well. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I will do the prayer. Please listen to my prayer. Dear Lord, I ask you today to please give the elected officials that serve the city of Kenner the following: the knowledge to govern effectively, the wisdom to make wise decisions in the choices that we make, so that our city is the best place to live and raise your family. Moral character to always do what is right, the intelligence to make sure that they know that we are here to give them a great life, the direction that we always need to make sure that the people feel and are served the way they should be. And I thank you for giving us the gift of life and letting my eyes open this morning. Amen.
Amen.
Councilmember Hayes, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Hayes. Natalie?
Yes, sir. You have a quorum. All council members are present. In accordance with Council Resolution number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, and beepers and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Mr. Chairman, under resolutions, motions, and other items from the floor, I have received several resolutions and ordinances to add to the agenda. The first one would be item 13A, a resolution opposing Senate Bill 189 of the 2020 regular session of the Louisiana Legislature.
Do I read the motions in seconds now? Okay, I didn't know. I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan. I do not have a second. I need a second on that. Councilmember Wilmot, to amend the agenda to add item 13A. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to object? Hearing none, do we have any, Adam?
Hand raised.
What's that?
Mr. Richard Brown has his hand raised.
Okay, well, he would talk now. We do it on each one, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Let him speak.
Mr. Brown, you're unmuted.
Thank you, Adam. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I object to this, and I probably won't, but I need to know just what the resolution does, what bill it opposes.
It's the Senate bill that is changing the monies, Senate Bill 189, that is changing the way the allocations are to municipalities. It's basically taking some away.
I will not object to it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Councilmember Hayes, you had your hand up.
I just want to explain a little bit more. It,
Okay.
What the bill authorized was 300 million from the 45% of the CARES Act away from the municipalities and going towards a fund for small businesses. And the LBA has asked us to fully support with our legislators to obviously prohibit this provision. It would mean to us a $300 million loss to the municipalities.
Okay, anyone else? Adam, do we have anyone else out there?
There are no other hands raised.
Okay, hearing none, council members, please vote. Okay,
Motion passes 7-0. The next item would be item 13B, a resolution temporarily suspending council rule number 7 of the Rules of Organization, Business, Order, and Procedure of the Council of the City of Kenner and rescheduling the Kenner City Council meeting of July 2nd, 2020 to July 9th, 2020, and rescheduling the Kenner City Council meeting of July 17th, 2020 to July 24th, 2020.
we have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, and I need a second on this to amend. Councilmember Hayes will second it. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to object? Adam, do we have anybody?
I see no hands, Councilman.
Okay, hearing none, all council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. The next item would be item 16D, an ordinance ratifying the proposal for excess workers' compensation insurance for the period of July 1st, 2020 through July 1st, 2021.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, and again, I need a second. Councilmember Hayes will second. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to object? Adam?
I see no hands, Councilman.
Hearing none, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 16E is the next item, an ordinance ratifying the proposal for casualty package insurance for the period of July 1st, 2020 through July 1st, 2021.
Motion by Councilmember Brannigan. I need a second. Councilmember Brennan seconds to amend. Anyone in the audience wishing to object? Adam?
Richard Brown has his hand raised.
Okay.
Mr. Brown, you're unmuted.
Thank you, Adam. Mr. Chairman, again, I don't know if I'll object, but I need to know just a little more about what this item does.
Mr. Rapier, can you let Mr. Brown know what these items do? These
The
two?
two items on the insurance are for, one is our workers' comp and one is our casualty policy. We do not yet have a proposal on the casualty policy. Both of these policies expire July 1. These are just going on for first reading, so we have the ability, so you all have the ability to vote on them at the next meeting.
Okay, I have no objection, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Adam, anybody else?
There are no other hands raised.
Hearing none, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Under the consent agenda, we have approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of May 22nd, 2020. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. We have none. Item 4 is correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, a report from Mayor Zahn.
Mayor Zahn?
Thanks, Council President. I have a few things to go over, like I told you earlier,
Okay.
and at least two people that need to speak under my comments.
Okay.
The first thing is the Duncan Canal. I reported the last council meeting that we were working with the state to have the contractor return to work or call his bond. the message that we're getting, the word that we're getting from the state is that the contract, you may have seen this on Monday morning, the contractor has decided to return to work. The earliest that he will return will be probably to do a lot of work, start the real work, will be early part of next week. Hopefully, that's what we're hopefully hearing that he will do. He was out there moving some things around on Monday or Tuesday. As you know, Councilman, I think we met with Chardonnay Village either the early part of this week, a latter part of last week. I can't remember exactly what it was. We informed them. And then after we met with them, I did inform them of this news, like I had told you. It is in District 4, but it does affect a lot of people. So again, what we're hearing from the state is that they have decided to return back to work, but they have to fabricate some things before they do that and move a few things around, and we'll be going from there. So I know it affects a lot of the city of Kenner, but I want to say thank you to Councilman Brannigan for working with my office to get that done and working with the state. Brake tag station, July 13th opening. Expiration of all tags are good for 45 days after the open date. So yeah, as we know, the Kenner Police will not be giving brake tickets on the brake tags. We've made that clear. There's been some social media posts that the Kenner Police Department was doing that. That's totally bad information. The Kenner Police have pulled some people over, obviously, or some checkpoints for seatbelts. That has nothing to do with your brake tag. We will be putting this very soon. It tells you what it goes on your dashboard. It'll be at the brake tag station very soon, probably early part of next week in a little box, waterproof box, hopefully, and also put it on our homepage. Copy it off or stop by the brake tag station and get one placed on your dashboard. It will alert law enforcement that your tag is not expired. Not worried about Kenner Police, but we are concerned about maybe some other law enforcement agencies that may not realize that. It is a state deal, but still, we want to make sure the other law enforcement agencies around the metro area and Jefferson Parish understand that we're not giving tickets and we're asking them not to do the same thing. We did another mask giveaway this morning. I want to thank those that attended and all the volunteers. We gave out a few masks. We do see it starting to drop off a little bit. We'll probably not do any more mask giveaways unless we see a need to do so. This morning we had maybe 100 cars that pulled up. Usually we have a lot more than that. Like last week with the food and mask giveaway, we had over 500. So we start to see that there's a little drop off on that. Maybe some people aren't wearing them. Maybe just some people have enough. We don't know. But we had decided not to do any more food giveaways with Ronnie Maines with CRC. However, after we made that decision, we were contacted by Second Harvesters, and I want to thank Councilman Dino Bonanno for contacting me personally. He asked if Second Harvesters can come to the Pontchartrain Center tomorrow from 1 to 4 with the National Guard, and we're going to be out there also. They really have it under control, but the Second Harvesters wanted to come to Kenner. So we talked to Mr. Ronnie Maines. We explained that to him, that after we had called it off for doing any more, we didn't want to tell Second Harvesters no. Weather update. We have a lot going on right now, but one of the main things we have going on that could impact this area is the tropical storm. I want to let everyone know we are fully manned and staffed. Through this whole pandemic, we have been fully manned and staffed. We have either worked remotely, directly, or with a mix of employees on the streets. We are always on call in providing these services. So if anyone thinks that we are not ready for continuing your services as on a normal basis daily, we are absolutely, totally ready to continue those services, but also we're ready and staffed for a storm. All the elements of our municipal response task force will be deployed to the field, working with our call center. All the council people know that. My staff knows that. Our Kenner Police Department and our Kenner Fire Department has not missed a beat throughout this whole thing, nor will they over this weekend. So I want to thank the council, the chief, our fire chief, everyone on what we have out there. But I also want to call on Doug Doak to give a little more detail on what's going on for the tropical storm and how we're ready for this. Again, we will have our task force ready to go. Do not worry about anything that the city is not prepared, along with police and fire and city services. Doug?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. What I'd like to do is put up a PowerPoint presentation that has some information that will give us an idea of what the storm is looking like. And so I'll ask IT to do that now. So going to the next slide, what we see is the probable cone or cone of probable path of the storm as it's been reported in the weather at PM this afternoon. What we know is that the storm has gone ashore in on the coast of on land in Mexico, and it is meandering around there. It has become a little bit disorganized. The wind speed has actually dropped down below tropical depression strength, less than 39 miles an hour, but it is anticipated that the storm will come offshore and begin in a northerly direction and will gain strength, and at some point will reach tropical depression or tropical storm, a weak tropical storm, a weak to mid tropical storm. When it approaches Louisiana coast, it will definitely pick up wind speeds, and then it will curve just to the west as it reaches the Louisiana coast and impact probably to our west. That will impact us to a certain extent in that on being on the eastern side, it may mean that we get more rain and more wind than we would if we were on the other side of it. So we're looking to get a bit of rain and wind with the storm. Next slide, please. So it's forecast to remain over the Gulf of Mexico throughout Friday, and then it's going to reach the Louisiana coast. There's a high degree of uncertainty regarding the exact path and intensity of the storm. Currently, the greatest threats are expected to be heavy rainfall and some coastal flooding, and the wind impact will depend on the exact track and intensity of the storm. Next slide. The earliest reasonable time that we see the storm winds approaching us is probably Saturday evening. And again, we're looking at a tropical storm winds less than 73 miles per hour, but right now they're less than 39. So if we're looking at probability of winds in the 40 to 60 mile an hour range. Next slide. So here's a timing chart that gives an indication of when we'll see this particular storm and the tropical force winds reach the Louisiana coast. Next slide. What we can expect is a lot of rain, and this will come in several rounds of potentially heavy rainfall. And some of these rainfall bands will come on shore well ahead of the storm itself. So this is a situation where we're going to start to see rains probably coming in Sunday. Probably Sunday evening is when they're going to really pick up. And so we need to be prepared for it for Sunday. We're looking at 2 to 4 inches per rain at its heaviest rate or possible in some areas. And there's a maximum local 7-day total of 10 inches or more. And there's a possibility some areas could get up to 15 inches. Now that's a 7-day total. So that's over a 7-day period, not all at one time, but it is an indication that there's a lot of rain coming to us over a relatively short period of time. Next slide. So here's a chart or a map indicating the areas where the rain is most likely to be heaviest. And as you can see in the New Orleans area, Canal area, we're looking at 10 to 15 inches of rain over a 7-day period. So it's probably throughout through next week, next Tuesday or Wednesday. That's how much rain we're looking at. Next slide. So the summary is that there's a threat of a sustained tropical force winds, heavy rainfall, and some flash flooding may be possible. And the heaviest rainfall is expected over the weekend. Obviously, we're looking at some street level flooding, probably. Conditions could possibly lead to power outages, some utility outages. And then there's a possibility of a few tornadoes may be possible over the weekend as well. Next slide. This is just a chart indicating the probability of those particular type of impacts. And as you can see, our biggest impact is going to be rain. And then next to that is going to be a wind. And offshore, obviously, there's going to be a lot of activity offshore. Next slide. So we ask our residents, as we do in any tropical force or severe tropical weather or severe weather, is to clean out the drains and gutters around your home and business. Pick up the lawn furniture, trash bins, and objects that can fly about in high winds. Check your flashlight and batteries, and charge your cell phone and prepare your generator if you have one. Store some food and water, medications, and personal supplies. Stay tuned to news and weather reports, and check the Canal social media sites often for local updates. We will continue to provide updates throughout this storm. We've been coordinating with the police department, Canal Police Department, Canal Fire Department, Energy, as well as Jefferson Parish Emergency Management. We're all coordinating with each other. We're maintaining briefings with all of our staff on a regular basis, and we're also coordinating with Jefferson Parish Emergency Management, and we're all prepared to deal with what the storm brings us. Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doug. Also, I want to call on, I was going to call on Lee Roussel, but I think Glenn already covered Bill 189 for us, that you're doing a resolution on, hopefully passing that myself and the chief will be adding our names to also. But with that said, we do have our chief of police here with us. He doesn't need to be under my comments, but I asked him to come to make comments on some things that are going on possibly tomorrow night and maybe even on Saturday. Chief?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make some comments on, let the public know that we are aware that there's some kind of planned event tomorrow scheduled to take place around 6 p.m. In the Veterans Boulevard corridor. We reached out to some of the organizers and assured them that we'll assist them in any way possible, if they are going to enter a city street, that they are safe walking, and the motoring public also. So they assured us that it's a peaceful demonstration or gathering, and we will, like I said, assist them in any way that they see fit, or we see things that needs to be done. And also with that, yes, we've today ran through all of our storm response assets we have, and 100% of them are up and running. So we will be assisting, the administration with any needs, and any residents with, if there is an event, a water event and or a wind event, as we normally do when, administration can't get to the block streets, some of our guys will temporarily, clear a street, do whatever they can do to assist the administration. But yes, we will, we've already made the preparations. If you drive by this building now, our storm shutters, or some of them are being lowered because it's a weekend coming, and some of the people at their offices will be locked, and we just wanted to get to them and have them lower the shutters. So, but we prepared for both events.
Thank you, Chief. Council President, that's all I have.
Okay, I'd like to have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, second by Councilmember Kenny on the consent agenda. Council members, please vote. Natalie, what's the matter?
He's muted.
Okay, I'm good. Motion passes 7-0. Under the public appearance agenda, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. Item 9A is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,708, An ordinance amending the 2019-2020 operating budget to reallocate $5,685,053.75 from various accounts to the general municipal sweep account due to COVID-19.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Brennan to open the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
I'd like to recognize Mike Wetzel, the Finance Director, to answer any questions. Does anyone have any questions? Councilmember Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's just to be able to confirm the support from the finance director about a question that I had asked with Ms. Fauché as it relates to the fiscal years involving the operations and or capital projects, that it is only for the fiscal year FY19 and FY20, just to put it on record. Mr. Director.
Basically, Councilman, this is just a line item change that is solely touching operating expenses for 19 and 20. No capital expenses are touched.
Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
Mhm.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Does anyone else have any questions? Is there anyone in the audience, Adam, that wishes to address this legislation?
See no hands, Councilman.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Brennan to close the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
I have a motion by Councilmember Brannigan, second by Councilmember Brennan to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 9B is summary ordinance number 12,709, an ordinance approving a contract with IV Waste LLC for the collection and transportation of garbage or trash within the corporate limits of the city of Canal, Louisiana for a period of 10 years and providing for related matters.
I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, second by Councilmember Hayes to open the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Natalie, is that correct? We're in a public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
We're opening a public hearing. Yes, sir.
okay.
Council members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0.
Adam, do we have anyone that wants to address the council?
We have two people that would like to address the council. Mr. Richard Brown is first.
Okay.
You are unmuted, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. Council members, even though I oppose this contract and I hope the council votes it down, it's not so much because I'm opposed to changing garbage contractors. That's not necessarily the case. It's the way this has been handled. But I can read the handwriting on the wall. I know this is probably going to pass. So I'm hoping to make it as good a contract as we can for the people of Kenner. And I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you to make two changes in this contract. One is a change to section 3A2 of the contract regarding the carts. And that's to the rollout carts. There's no provision in this contract for IV Waste to replace damaged or stolen carts. That provision has been in all of our other garbage contracts going back many years. I've checked. It was in the Ramelli contract. That provision is not in this contract. I realize these carts supposedly have a 10-year warranty, but that warranty is between the manufacturer and IV Waste. And I've heard from different people in the garbage business, different garbage contractors, that actually those warranty provisions are almost worthless because whenever the garbage contractor makes a claim under the warranty, the standard response is, well, this was caused by abuse. A warranty doesn't cover abuse, so we're not going to cover it. We've already had lots of reports of wheels coming off. I don't know if that's a defect or not, but let's just simply put a one sentence provision in here, which was in the Ramelli contract, that says the contractor will replace damaged and broken carts, or excuse me, will repair or replace damaged and broken carts at no charge to the consumer or at his own cost. I ask you to please put that in here. These carts are going to start having problems in a few years. They're brand new now, but in a few years, they're going to have problems. The other change I hope you will make is to the price. And by the way, there's been a change in this contract between the version that was on the agenda for first reading for, I think, the May 7th council meeting and today. It's gone from 53 pages to 40 pages, and there's a change in the price. I'm asking you to do one thing. The price, we've been told repeatedly for months that this contract with IV Waste would not cost any more than the Ramelli contract. I'm asking you, please make the price $11.28 and then subject only to future CPI increases. Take out this formula you have that says it'll be based on $10.98 with CPI increases going back to the year 2015. We were told the price will be the same if you make it $11.28 and then provide for CPI increases going forward, not backwards, only going forward. That'll be fine. And I'll be happy. Thank you.
Who's next, Adam?
Next is Miss Stacy. Stacy, you're unmuted.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. I wanted to say, back in December when you guys voted on making the citizens directly responsible for the exact costs, one of the issues that I raised back then is, now that we're being responsible, we can't negotiate this bill for ourselves. We have to, trust that you guys are going to do the best for us. And one of my points was that now that this is being changed, what's to stop us from going into another contract at a much higher rate? And back then, Ivy wasn't even on the radar. And I was assured, oh, that's ridiculous. There's no way, nothing, it will never happen. Well, lo and behold, a couple months later, it did happen. So now the citizens are on the hook for the direct costs. Okay, fine. And now we are changing contractors. And so at that point, then we were told it's not going to cost you any more money. So at first we were assured that we were in good hands, that this wouldn't happen. Then it did happen. Then we were told this contract will not cost you any more money. It's going to be done for the same price that Ramelli is charging, which is fine. But now there's a twist, and it's a semantic game being played. Words are being now twisted. And instead of it just simply saying, this is the fifth version of this contract, can't we just get it right now, avoid any future problems? Right now, if you're going to do what you said you were going to do, thank you, Councilman. If you're going to do what you said you were going to do in the beginning, you told us one price, and now the price has changed. That's not the way you do things. You don't do it in business. You don't tell somebody, okay, I'm going to sell you a car for $500. And then when they buy the car, oh, by the way, when they get the bill, it's now $600. Same thing here. Okay, Ramelli is charging us currently and has been $11.28. Thank you, Councilman. $11.28. And then he's due to get a CPI in July and every year thereafter. If you're truly going to make this contract the same, like you said you would, and you're not going to charge the citizens any more that we're on the hook for, why can't you simply make this contract say the price is $11.28 and future CPI, not retroactive for 5 years when he didn't even have the contract? Make it the same as Ramelli, $11.28. Thank you, Councilman. $11.28 with future CPI increases. Nobody's going to have a problem with that. Nobody's going to be objecting. You're not going to keep this thing going on and on and on. Let's get it over with. Let's do it right this time. Don't give anybody any reasons to object or file lawsuits. Do it the right way. $11.28, future CPI increases starting in July, that's fine. You want to give him one a month after he's got the contract? That's fine. I'm begging you, please, let's do it the right way. Thank you.
Okay, Adam, do we have anybody else?
Mr. Greg Taft is up next.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, Councilman Brennan has his hand up. I don't know.
I'm sorry, Councilman Brennan.
He's muted.
Unmute.
I was doing that. Let Mr. Taft speak, and I was just going to ask Mr. Rapier to clarify a few things and a couple of other discussion points, but please let Mr. Taft go.
Okay,
Thank you.
Adam.
Mr. Taft, you can unmute yourself.
This is Greg Taft, 3720 West Loyola Drive in Kenner. I just want to make a few comments. One comment is the Romelli contract in 2016 called for 1098, and it also called for CPI adjustments annually. All this contract is doing is going back to the 2016 contract requiring the 1098, and then making the, since it was 2016, you have to have the CPI adjustments that take place to the current year, which would be the 2020 year. Now, the other thing that seems to get missed in all this is that Romelli's invoices does not reflect the amount that should have been charged by Romelli that would have included the CPI adjustment. That is not the fault of this contract. And just because Romelli's invoices did not stand up to or adjust for the CPI adjustments yearly, that is not the fault of the contract that's going to IV. Because the contract going to IV would be the same amount as you would calculate using the CPI calculator, and that's a government calculator that you're using, not some little calculator on your desk. But the government calculator, it will actually calculate what the CPI adjustment would be for the year that you're going into for the next fiscal year. The next thing I want to point out is that since the finance department has been using the CPI adjustment, what's reflected on the Jefferson Parish water bill is the amount that people will pay IV, which is the amount that Romelli would have been able to charge. So I don't know why they can't look at, people can't see that they're already paying more than the Romelli invoice in the first place. Because the water bill reflects the annual adjustment, and that's all this contract is doing, is saying, yes, in 2016 it was 1098, but that contract also provided CPI adjustment annually. And that is really all I have to comment on this, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Taft. Adam, do we have anyone else?
Zach Frigo has his hand up.
Okay.
Zach, you there?
Adam?
I don't see him anymore. Hang on one second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't on muting. I had it.
Go ahead.
Hey, Zach Frigo, Colgate Place, University City, District 5. I just wanted to note, since May 1st, I have not needed to dodge any trash cans while driving around the streets of Kenner. I have not had to remove cans in the middle of my cul-de-sac like I normally do after every trash day. There is noticeably less trash on the curbs, and I no longer have my 20-year-old trash cans. And I remember the last meeting I attended, a councilman stated he also received complaints for AT&T and Cox and other services, but those are optional services. If one's bad, I switch to the other. The trash service, though, is set by the city. And for 10 years now, I've complained about the poor trash service. And I thank you all for finally making the change to IV. I truly support it, and I congratulate you for making this change. I really want to stick with it. I hear a dog. But that's all I have to say. I'm pro IV.
Thank you, Mr. Frigo. Adam, do we have anyone else?
I see no other hands, Councilman. Actually,
Okay.
wait, I'm sorry. Saley Molina just raised her hand.
Okay, let's.
Go ahead and unmute, Saley.
Hello, Saley Molina, District 5. I just have the same question I asked at the last council meeting. I guess it's directed at Mr. Rapier. I am confused. I want to understand what was the defect in the first contract that causes us to put it on the agenda again? That's one question. My second question is, why was it a different contract that was on the first reading that is on the second reading? And my last question would be, why are we voting on a contract that is not complete, that we don't have all the facts or all the information for? Those are my questions.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Councilman Brannigan, I'll be glad to answer at least two of those questions. I'm not sure I can answer the third. There was no defect with the first contract. The issue was that the judge determines or is of the opinion that instead of laying over one meeting like all of our ordinances on contracts, the judge said that that ordinance should have laid over 28 days. That's why this time around it was put on in the first meeting in May, and you're voting on it. They're voting on the ordinance in the first meeting in June. It's a it was the 28-day layover issue, but there was never a defect with the contract. As to the second, between the first reading and the second reading, you're not voting. As I've told the council more than once, especially with the IV contract, the council is not voting on the contract. The council is voting on the ordinance. And there were some requests for some changes and some, not changes so much as clarifying some language by several council members, and those changes, that clarifying language was made between the first reading and this. It's a non-issue, and I'm really not sure what the third question was trying to get to, because I didn't understand. I'm not sure what information is not available that you are asking about.
Okay. Council, Adam, do we have anybody else? Because I
Yeah.
see Al Morella's hand up.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself, Mr. Morella.
Okay, Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 48 years. I just want to say this. When I spoke several weeks ago to IV Waste, I let them know in no uncertain terms that myself and the citizens of the city of Kenner have been scrutinizing every solid waste contract since the days of waste management. And we will be scrutinizing this one as well. That's all I have to say on this matter. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Do we have anybody else, Adam?
I see no other hands from the public raised.
Okay. Councilmember Brennan, are you ready to speak? Natalie, do we have to close the public hearing, or
I would
can't hear you.
suggest, I would suggest you close your public hearing, and then the council members can speak during your approval portion of the ordinance.
Okay. All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, second by Councilmember Hayes. Oh, are you voting, Gregory?
To close.
Okay.
Yeah.
To close the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0 to close your hearing.
Okay, so
Call your-
Councilmember, I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, second by Councilmember Hayes to approve. And Councilmember Brennan wanted to speak.
Thank you, Council President.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
I'm just,
Mr. Chairman, if I could clarify, Councilmember Segura is your motion. He usually gets.
Okay.
Open your discussion.
Okay, Councilmember Segura.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And no offense to Councilman Brennan, because when I get into some of this, he can chime in after, but I think I've got some of his comments. probably to ask already anyway. As we know, this is a little bit of deja vu. Here we are on June the 4th, and we're reviewing something that we passed back on March 5th. And as already that's been informed by a question of a technical problem that the judge said we had to let it sit 28 days. And then we were free to vote on the contract as we wanted to. So that's all we're doing now is letting the 28-day requirement take its course, and then now vote on the ordinance to establish that the mayor has the right to negotiate a contract with IV. And it's the same basic contract that, as we understand, that was with Ramelli and now is being offered with IV. All the basic components are still in there. The key points are the price and the CPI. And let me just do this question first off to City Attorney, Mr. Rapier. Is it not normal that all contracts of this type or anything which are long-term have a CPI clause in it that then escalates the price that is charged against that contract?
Most long-term contracts have some kind of an escalation clause in them, and yes, most of them use the CPI as the index.
Okay, thank you. So this discussion on the CPI is it's there in all, basically, as you said, contracts of this nature, and is in there for that purpose, so that these costs that go up due to inflation and whatever is already built in. We don't have to come back every year, I guess, and negotiate, retalk that over. So the CPI is in there for that purpose. The price that seems to be a concern is the 1128 price. And if I'm correct, on section 6.1, service fees for the collection of services, it seems fairly clear to me that the fee shall be 1128. Is that correct, Mr. Rapier?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the contract that is attached to this ordinance has been negotiated by the mayor for the 1128 fee, which is the same that Ramelli had been invoicing. So that discussion seemed fairly straightforward. It is the same price that Ramelli was being paid. The CPI, being a different discussion, is an automatic change in the annual price based upon the consumer price index. It generally goes up, not down. So whatever his reasons were for not applying it, as I appreciate, it was applied to what was put on the water bills annually. So now I'd like to ask our finance director, Mr. Wetzel, to explain how the CPI is administered annually and how it will continue to be with this contract.
Okay, sure. I'm going to share my screen here. All right, to get the current CPI, we use the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics website, and you can get that at www.bls.gov. Come down to the data tools, calculators. Then we're going to go right here to the inflation calculator. And here is the calculator that uses the consumer price index for all urban consumer CPIU, which is what's in the contract. If we start off with the 1098 that was signed in June of 2015, and we ask what it would be for the May 2019 because we do not have 2020 yet. We'll probably get that in the next month or so. You just hit calculate and it gives you the price right there, 1178. And that's what we'll use every year.
Okay. So the 1178 is the CPI from the original 1098 price of the contract to the present year. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen in the assumingly next few months, but then that will take its course. How does that work with, is that an automatic thing that it gets added to the bill on the water bill? Or is it something has to happen for that to take place?
So the water bill is adjusted in January using October's CPI. So that's what we would use. I would send a letter to the parish and let them know what the new price is, and they would add it to the water bill.
Okay. So as then I guess what this is saying is that with this contract, it's not going to be any different than any previous garbage collection contract, and for that matter, any other contracts of this nature that the city gets involved in and has these cost of living increases, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what, as I appreciate then is happening today is, again, we're just voting on an ordinance that certainly allows the mayor to negotiate, even though we've seen this contract and over the last days and weeks since the March 5th vote, and then certainly as a result of the judge's opinion that it should have sat over for 28 days instead of the 14-day, that we've had opportunity to give the mayor input on topics that each of us have had interest in. And those topics hopefully perhaps have made it into the document we refer to as this contract, but that contract is still in the purview of the mayor to negotiate. Is that correct, Mr. Rapier?
Yes, sir. Again, as I said, March 5th, and I'll say it again today, you're voting on an ordinance to give the mayor the authority to enter into a contract worth over $100,000. That's what you're voting on.
Okay.
The mayor, under the charter, the mayor has the ability to negotiate or the duty to negotiate all contracts.
So what I've heard over this period of time is the biggest sticking points amongst not only my colleagues, but the public is the price and the CPI. And I believe we've got an explanation on that. Now, as far as other components of the contract, there was some discussions relative to the replacement of a can if it was stolen. And that was discussed at the March 5th meeting. And that has been put into the contract attached to this ordinance. Is that correct, Mr. Rapier?
Yes, it has.
Okay. The also misunderstanding is that if a resident chooses to need additional cans, and if they choose to buy that can from IV at the price of, I think it's $65, that can belongs to them. So if IV leaves us and no longer provides a service, that can that they purchase is their property. Is that correct? That's language that was put in on the May 5th meeting?
That's correct. If anybody who buys a can, buys an extra can, it becomes the owner of the can, and they keep it at all. They keep it.
Sure. And on a footnote to that, I encourage all residents, if that's their case, to do so. Please keep your receipts as proof, because without some proof, everybody says, oh, I bought a can, I bought this extra can. But when it comes time to deciding that, if there's no paperwork, it gets hard to determine that. So now we're at the point that if we did not approve this contract or this ordinance, which again authorized the mayor to fulfill this contract, we would be in a pretty stinky, trashy mess because we would not have some garbage pickup taking place immediately after. So I think it's, certainly imperative that we move forward with this and go forward. Now, just on a personal note, I watched a news story on Channel 4 last night that alarmed me to a great extent and certainly disappointed me to an even more extent, because when I was fortunate to come in and serve as acting mayor, one of the first things that I was able to get involved and take part of was fulfilling a lot of residents' requests to go back to curbside recycling. So I started the process with the administration that I had at the time to do that. And we were fortunate to find the funds to do that and re-sign an additional amendment or supplement to that original IV contract the Ramelli contract to get curbside recycling. And I was happy because I'm a very strong believer in recycling because of our ecology, the planet. These are things that if we don't take care of in the future generations, we're leaving with a mess. And I certainly am passionate about the recycling of things that we should be doing. But after watching that story, and I commend Channel 4, David Hammer, for his diligence in putting that story together, I'm just dismayed to find out that my good intentions seem to be worthless and useless because the contractor chose not to recycle the items that we wanted to be recycled. That it appears that just go throw it in with the regular garbage and I don't have to deal with the recycling issue. And that causes us a big problem because that increases our tip fees. A tip fee is the tonnage price that we pay the landfill for the garbage that we collect from our residents and get it out of their site and move over to the landfill. So when we're thinking that we're doing good for the ecology and our planet, we find out all we're doing is piling more trash into a landfill and paying more money to the landfill operator for that additional trash. So again, this is really disheartening to see that a contractor that I entrusted to do this would do this to this city and our residents. And I'm very, very dismayed and disappointed that this took place. And I don't think it's, I presume that these kind of stories don't just end with the TV story. I'm sure there'll be some other questions and things that'll come out of it in time to make more sense and hold accountable for these actions. So with that though, I'll yield the rest to my colleagues.
Okay, Councilmember Brennan, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Brennan.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. Yes, so Councilman Segura had asked about the price, and I was hoping we could clarify that. Mr. Rapier and I have spoken about some clarifying language for the can and bin replacement. Ed, can you comment on that, please?
Yes, sir, Councilman Brennan. The contract right now says that the carts are warranted for the 10 years, which would require the 10-year of the life of the contract, which would require the contractor, IV Waste, to replace anything that was broken or damaged, subject to the stolen or vandalized issue. But in talking with you and wanting to clarify it in belts and suspenders, to use legal terms, we're going to add some language to it that makes it clear that for the 10 years of this contract, if there's a broken or a damaged cart, that's a replacement cost for IV waste, not to be charged to the resident.
Thank you. And the other comment that I'd like to make is that since we had a constituent ask people to reach out to us to support or not support the vote for this. And the emails and text messages that I've received have been quite a few. And the majority, the vast majority, have been in support and expressing happiness and how happy people are with the service they've received thus far. As Mr. Frigo said earlier, the cans not being in the street, cans getting hit. So this is obviously been a long time coming in getting this worked out, but I truly believe the service is going to continue to be exemplary, and I think in the long run, very good for our constituents. And I applaud everyone that has supported this and that is for it. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Council Member Wilmot, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess everybody can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna be a few minutes. First off, I want to say that I need more information. So far, I think we've gotten a lot of good information. It's been helpful. Councilman Segura hit on some things that I want to go back over again, though. I think it's good information, though, but I still want to go back and recap some of the stuff. And if I could start off with Mr. Wetzel, I would like to find out some more information about the CPI. And being the CPI, we have in the legislation, let me find the exact page, on page 23 of 40. In particular, it's section 6.1, third paragraph. It says beginning July 1st, which is next month. We're talking what, a couple weeks, 3 weeks? The city shall pay pay contractor for the service work the sum of $10 and $98 adjusted for the difference in CPI-U as defined in section 6.2 between June 2015 and May 2020. My understanding is, by reading that, that's 6 consecutive years. That being the case, what percentage, can you tell me, Mr. Wetzel, what percentage that would be? 6 years? Now, I know this year they don't have the CPI out yet, so we don't know that figure. But the previous 5 years have been out. So for that 5 years, you should be able to calculate that. Can you not?
Yeah, I can. I just need a little bit of time to do so. I don't have that readily available.
Councilman Wilmot, if I may jump in for a minute. The reason that the language is in there is because of the fact that the administration has been consistently saying that IV Waste is going to take the contract, is going to be paid what the Romelli contract provides to be paid. Not what Romelli is being paid, but what Romelli contract provides for him to be paid. So in order to get to what the Romelli contract provides for Romelli to be paid, you have to take the language out of the Romelli contract, which starts off at a base rate at $10.98, and adjust it each year as if Mr. Romelli had done so. And I think Mr. Wetzel did that earlier, which is where he came up with the 1178 number, which gets you to July of 2019. Had Mr. Romelli been making the adjustments each year like he should have, then Mr. Romelli's company would have been entitled to be paid $11.78 per service unit beginning July 1, 2019. Okay. And so we are going to make the next adjustment. So the next adjustment would be July 1, 2020. I can't give you that adjusted number today because the CPI for May is not out yet. It'll be out in the next several days. So that is why you're seeing the jump from 2015 through 2020, so that this contract reflects, for IV waste, reflects what the contract with Romelli provides for. That's the language.
What I'm trying to get to, I want to be able to understand this clearly, and I want the people who read it to understand it clearly. So is this saying that every year you're going to add a new CPI for those 5 years, and for this year is a new year, so you can have it 6 times? Or is it simply a one-time figure? Can anybody?
I'm not sure I understand your question, but let me take a stab at it. If you were to, we're making an adjustment from the 2015 to today to 2020 as of July 1, which is a requirement under the current, which brings the contract to the value of the Romelli contract would be on July 1, 2020. Each year thereafter, it will be a 1-year increase. So next year, and then I think it's shown in, if you look in section 6.2, just a little bit further down, Councilman, it says, whoops, I moved my thing too fast. It says that the fee shall be adjusted, increased or decreased to reflect the changes beginning on July 1, 2021 and on July 1 each year after that. And you use the most closest adjustment. So you go back to take the June, the 12 months. So it would be June next year, so July 1, 2021, the adjustment will be June 2020 to May 2021. And whatever that change is, that calculator will spit it out for you. It'll be that 1-year adjustment.
I understand that, but what I'm getting at is, are we going to add to $10.98 an adjustment with the CPI for 6 consecutive years added on to the 1098, which would make it.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
That's going to happen. So,
Tom.
So, wait.
When can I speak now, or am I out of line? So I think I might be able to clear it up for you.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I'll speak after.
To make the question clear, the maximum, it says in 6.2, the maximum of the CPI could be up to 5% per annum. If it's 5% per year, are we looking at a maximum over a 6-year period of being 30% starting July 1st, 2020?
Councilman, I tell you what, let me do this for you. Hold on 1 second and I'll show you we get to the same spot. All right, we can do this very quickly on the screen. Mike, you still have the index?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you share your screen and I'm going to walk you through an adjustment I want you to make?
Yep. There you go.
All right. So start at 1098.
Okay.
June 2015.
All right.
To May 2016.
Right.
1105.
Right.
All right. Now take 1105, put it up there where the 1098 is. All right. Now change it. Can you make what I'm going to do is each year's adjustment.
Perfect.
So then don't change it yet, Mike. So in July 1 of 2017, the contract should have adjusted to 11. Was it
11:22?
Move too fast for me.
Sorry, 11:22.
11:22. So that's 17. That's 17. The one before that would have been 16. 18. Do the number for me, Mike. We get to 1152 for 18. Now do 18 to 19. Oh, heaven forbid, same number, 1171, 1171. So, Councilman, whether I adjust it year by year, and each year is not a 5% adjustment, or I jump a number of years, you're going to come up with the same number.
Okay, so it can go up or it can go down, so it fluctuates year to year. And in this, so it's not really just added, compounded. So it's not going to be $3 increase. It might be 50 cents. It might be 75 cents, but it doesn't look like it's an astronomical number.
It could actually adjust down depending upon the CPI.
Okay, that helps, and that information helps a lot.
Okay. Glad I could clear that up for you.
Yes, and now this is an issue for you, Mr. Rapier. I want to know, as far as the contract itself, we're voting, you said this earlier, we're voting on the ordinance. We're not voting on the contract.
That's correct. Absolutely.
So if in section 1 of the ordinance, it specifically says that a contract with IV Waste.
A contract, not the contract.
That's correct. A contract.
That's correct.
Is it your position that it has to be that way, or can it be the attached contract?
It could or it could not. Well, it depends. Currently, Councilman, unless the ordinance was changed to say the attached contract, because it does not say that, it says a contract. The ordinance as it's proposed is giving the mayor the authority to contract. Under the charter, the mayor is required to get council approval for any contract in excess of $100,000. But the charter also vests in the mayor the ability or the power to negotiate all contracts. And so the power to negotiate lies with the mayor. For contracts over $100,000, the mayor needs the authority. It is the city attorney's position that that's all this is giving him, is the authority to enter into a 10-year contract with IV Waste for the collection of garbage, for the collection of garbage on a 10-year basis. And the cost is going to exceed $100,000.
So this particular contract, everything that's in it, even though we may vote for it, it really doesn't have any impact as the way it's written. The mayor can execute any contract he wants. It doesn't have to be this particular contract. Is that correct?
I would think that the administration has put to you a pro forma contract. We've already made changes, some changes that the council members have asked. We're going to make another change that Councilman Brennan has requested. So I would be highly shocked if the mayor would do anything different than this contract.
Oh, and I understand that, but I want to know the answer. The answer, can he fictitiously just say, well, I'll decide I don't like this particular contract and change it all around? Is that possible?
Anything is possible under the sun, I guess, Councilman.
Okay, you still not answering my question.
Well, I don't know how to answer that question.
Yes or no?
The mayor has put this
say whether or not it could be changed or not changed. Let's put it this way. I would like to propose an amendment at this point in time to change the verbiage on the motion in section 1. Take out the words "that a contract" and put that the attached contract.
Well, Councilman, I hate to tell you this, Councilman, but I would hate to tell you this, but we'd have a problem with that, because then I couldn't put Councilman Brennan's request to change in. Because this contract doesn't have that change in it.
Can we add it to that?
You can add it to it. Sure, we can amend it. We can amend Councilman Brennan's to add it into it. Absolutely. And I'll be glad to offer that if the Councilman Brennan doesn't.
I'm sorry, Council President.
Yes.
What is the request exactly, Tom?
Mayor, I want to put in here in section 1, I want it to basically say that this particular contract is the one that the mayor's office has the authority and no other. So by changing the language, saying that a contract and putting that the attached contract, it will be this particular contract.
Okay, with all due respect, I got a question for the city attorney. I don't believe that's the role of the legislative body, is it, city attorney, Mr. Rapier?
Mayor, hang on one second. Sorry. You are potentially getting into an invasion of that would get into the invasion of your powers of the mayor to negotiate contracts.
Right, and look, what's before you is a courtesy, and by charter, it's a courtesy what we're going through right now, but also by charter, this is before y'all because it's a contract over $100,000. This is the passage of that part. After that's passed, it's my responsibility, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, Mr. Rapier, it's my responsibility to take all what you're asking, take those things in consideration, and put those things into the contract, which I've had that conversation with Councilman Brennan earlier. Councilman Wilmot, I asked you some questions earlier in the agenda meeting, and these things are just popping up. That's why I was trying to air some of those things out before. I just don't see that this, I see it a little bit as an invasion of the authority of the mayor's office on what you're asking. Look, maybe I'm reaching out too far, and the city attorney's here to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see that this is the part of the legislative body to do what you're asking. I wish we would have been notified about this earlier so we could have kind of worked this out a little bit. Any attempt to micromanage the authority of the mayor's office, I got to tell you, I'm offended by that, and I feel that's what we're getting into right now.
But that's not my intent.
I didn't say it was. I just said I feel like micromanaging the mayor's office, any attempt to do that would be a problem. But I don't want to go down this road right now. I'm trying to keep garbage collection on the streets tomorrow morning, kind of like what Councilman Segura brought up earlier. I think that's what he was indirectly maybe asking me or members of the administration, what happens tomorrow morning? And that's a very good question. What happens in a week from now? We're not voting for the former contractor or the current contractor. We're voting for garbage collection right now for our residents.
And that's what I'm trying to determine, Mayor.
Yeah, I just think it's a little, and I respect that, but I just think it's a little far-reaching at the last minute that we weren't even prepared with this.
Well, it's something that we should be privy to.
And I don't want the public to think that I don't take anything under consideration that's offered by a council member. Councilman Brennan approached me with something earlier today, again in the agenda meeting. I have no problem taking all those things in consideration and making those changes. So it's not the message to the mayor's office or me as the mayor. I'm not sending out the message, no input from the council. I take that input from the council, but this is a little catching me off guard. And I don't think it's the role of the legislative body.
Is that you, and with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Attorney, you agree that it's overreaching?
Let me say this before he answers that. I don't do legislation. Y'all don't do contracts. It's a division of powers. It's what government's built on, at least this city government. Ed, you got it.
Well, the charter puts the negotiation of all contracts in the hands of the mayor. Anything up under $100,000, he does not need you all don't ever hear about, don't ever see, don't have any input on. Anything what the charter requires is the approval of a contract over $100,000. It is granting the authority to the mayor to negotiate the contracts. It is not approving a specific contract.
Okay, because we're trying to determine too. I mean, in here, the setting a price for garbage pickup. And I want to make sure that my citizens, I'm just trying to do right by my citizens. I think it's very important to protect them and understand it, so I have a voice and a vote more than, my understanding was before today that we had the right to impact the contract. And now I'm learning we don't have a right to impact the contract, only the ordinance itself. And so that's why I bring it up about the ordinance. So I'm asking that we change the ordinance to read that, and now I'm telling that it's overstepping. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So let me get back to the next question. And this was brought up, and so I think it was already discussed, and that last thing was discussed, Mr. Mayor, but it was brought up by the city attorney, and I just went a little further with it. Now, the next step is if this ordinance isn't approved, then what happens?
You're asking me, or are you asking the legal department?
I guess you, Mr. Mayor, you're more, I think it's
when the
ballpark.
Right, that's fine. When the emergency contract runs out, the people of Canada do not have a garbage collector. And I think that is, I'll say this, I think that's criminal. I think that's criminal that our people do not have garbage collection, because if this council did not see to pass this ordinance and give me the power to enter into a contract with IB Waste, that's terrible for our citizens. Because my whole deal here is the best interest of our citizens. And that's what it's been since day one with garbage collection on this issue.
And I appreciate that. And I'm just trying to learn as much as I can so I can make the right decision today. So if that's the case, then let me ask one more question on that issue. Can you, if this contract is denied today, the next question would be, can you enter into another mayoral executive order granting another extension?
I absolutely can, but where are the people going to put their garbage? I don't want to go down the road of another situation that we went down before with the TRO not allowing the current contractor to pick up garbage out of certain cans. I'm not saying that would happen, but I don't have a crystal ball. So what if?
All right. I understand.
I don't think this council wants to be the reason why that happens. I don't know, but I'm just saying, I don't want to be part of that, because like I said, that's criminal to our residents.
No, and I appreciate that. And I'm sorry to ask all these difficult and hard questions, but I think it's very important that we bring it all out and let the public be aware and understand. And it helps me towards my decision today, because quite frankly, this one's a tough one for me. And I want to, and so I had to ask some tough questions. So,
well, and I understand that. I appreciate that, but it shouldn't be too tough if you watched Channel 4 last night.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember McKinney was next.
Unmute.
Unmute. Councilmember McKinney.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize. I was looking at the contract actually. Yeah, I just have a couple of clarifying questions. So I noticed that in the IV contract, in just looking at the updated version, that when we were going over what Councilmember Wilmot was talking about, is that we went back to 2015. And I noticed if we go to I guess I just want a clarification. In the Ramelli contract, it said the initial adjustment occurred on July 1st, 2016. So I guess I want to clarify why we're using 2016 or 2015 rather than 2016 as a start date.
The initial adjustment, and now let me. The initial adjustment will occur on July 1, 2016. There would be an adjustment from June 2015 to May 2016, so you can adjust it on July 1, 2016.
Okay, but the contract was executed in July of 2016.
No, the contract was
Of January of 2016.
January of 2016.
Right.
And
So why would
the first adjustment will occur July 1, 2016. It's an annual adjustment. So you go back as you would every adjustment. So the adjustment would be June 2000, using the CPI change between June 2015 to May of 2016.
Okay, but if it was a newly executed contract, why wouldn't it just go by the newly executed date of the contract?
Because that's not what the contract says. It's an annual adjustment. It's also one of the reasons why I got a whole lot clearer in how we're adjusting it in this contract. There are some ambiguities in the Ramelli contract.
Okay.
But it says it's an annual adjustment. The first adjustment will occur on July 1, 2016. For each adjustment, you use the most recently published consumer price index. So it's an annual adjustment using the most currently published consumer price index. The most current one to July is always going to be May, and it's an annual adjustment. So you go back 12 months to June of 2015.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And I also just want to thank you for taking the time. I did go through the entire IV contract line by line, and reviewed it and spoke with you and made some of the changes to the recent contract. The only other thing I'll say is that I want to point out to the public is that the container dumpster service actually in the IV contract is lower on a regular basis, because it's on a per month per unit basis than the previous Ramelli contract, which was done on a was actually on a per load basis. So we're actually getting a better deal and saving money on those supplementary services and container dumpster services, which saving the citizens money is always a good thing, and I like that. Otherwise, I think we made some good updates, made things a lot more clear. I think I got a lot of inquiries about my support for IV waste. I've supported it. I think I supported it the first time, I supported it the second time, and I'm going to support it this time because I think the higher level of service that we're being provided is what's important to the citizens. And also I think IV waste, as a company is full of integrity. And I believe that I'm going to be working with the administration to make sure that they're providing the highest level of service, which I don't think that I have any questions about that. But as I said, I think that we're getting the best deal. So I'll be voting with it. Thank you.
Okay, Wetzel, I saw your hand up. Did you want to say anything right now?
No, Ed got it. Thank you.
Okay.
He did
All
say
right.
it.
So I know I got a lot of hands that have been up, and I wrote down the order. Councilmember Brennan, you're next.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to clarify and ask a question. Legal, anyone weigh in on this? Don't we get copies of the contracts once they're signed and they're finished?
Yes.
In the event that we saw something and it changes from what we've asked or from what we've proposed, what we've been told, what rights do we have? What if that's the right word, Mr. Rapier?
You have a right to reconsider if you see something you don't like. You have a right to approach the mayor and say, hey, what happened here? There's a lot of things you could do.
And we could bring it back up at a future meeting and have it changed or called out and brought to whoever's attention.
Absolutely.
And I would have no problem making those changes, Councilman. Appreciate it.
Mr. Rapier, again, thank you for all your work on this. Mr. Wetzel, everybody else that's been involved in this. Thank you, Council President.
Councilmember Hayes, you're up.
I'll pass to Councilman Carroll at this point and reserve my comments after him.
Okay, Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And, first I'd like to personally apologize to all of the citizens of Kenner, all the taxpayers of Kenner, for the inconvenience of the garbage that stayed in front of our homes 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. I mean, that is something that myself, the council, the mayor, the administration, it is our responsibility to never ensure that happens again. And I apologize for myself, to everyone on that. As we know, we're here again. This is not our first time dealing with this. This is like our third or fourth time to deal with what's going on now, or what we are trying to put in place for this Kenner and for the residents, which is what we're supposed to do. It is our job to try to get the best deal that we can get for the citizens. Full disclosure, I disagree. The first time we attempted this 2 months ago, not because it was personal vendetta against IV. I personally didn't know anything about the company, or was it anything that I was carrying water for Ramelli, because, actually, from my position in District 1, we had a relatively good support from Ramelli. It wasn't perfect, but nobody's going to be perfect. So it was only because what was proposed to ensure that this new contract will offer the services to the Kenner citizens without increasing one penny. That being said, this contract has the potential for IV to be paid considerably more. I respect Mr. Brown, all of the people speaking, and Councilman Wilmot and Brennan for addressing a couple of amendments that I would propose today. One, and my biggest concern for the entire contract, I know everybody did a good job putting information in, but the biggest thing for me was, one, for the replacement of the garbage cans, the first one, we corrected that and put that in place. The second one, as Councilman Brennan wanted to do, and I want to propose that, is to ensure the language is put in, as the attorney assured me, that we will put something in to say that if a can is broken or damaged, that it will not be upon the citizen to pay for this. And while I agree that we're going to do that, I would want to hear that tonight, to be read in it to it tonight, that what the language is, and read it out so everybody can hear it to make it official tonight. I guess trust, yes, but verify. So, going forward, the second part is with the CPI. I understand if this is passed tonight that the CPI for IV should be compensated for anything starting in July. But I am totally against and disagree with is anything starting from 15, 16, 17, whatever the years are, they should not be compensated for that, because they were not part of our contract. And regardless if Ramelli didn't charge us, in my opinion, that is a saving for the city. So why would we want to give away something that was saved? It was in their contract. For whatever reason, they didn't do it. I don't know why they didn't do it, but they didn't do it. But it was a saving for the city. But we shouldn't just give that away just because they didn't do it. Starting in July of this past and going forward, then yes, the company should be, allocated to be able to receive that CPI, because that's fair. That's what they should get. But to go back, in my opinion, that is not fair. So, attorney, to be able to wrap this up, as it relates to the emergency contract, last week we didn't have a contract, so the mayor had to engage into a new emergency contract with IV with the citizens putting the trash in the IV containers. If by chance this doesn't pass, that would be the same situation because the citizens have a number of different garbage cans. Some of them, the citizens, the volunteers, the employees did a fantastic job of picking it up. But it doesn't preclude someone from putting trash back in that and putting it out there. If we were to have to sign an emergency contract, IV would be held only responsible for the cans that they have their names on it, because this is what the courts have determined until we get past that, unfortunately. So that being said, I would like to amend what Councilman Brennan said as it relates to verbiage, to read it in right now to say that we, the citizens, will not be held responsible for any cost for a broken or damaged can. That's my first amendment. And would ask for a second.
You're
Ms.
muted.
Councilmember Wilmot.
Yep, second.
So Councilman Brennan and Attorney, you can read Councilman Brennan's information since y'all talked about it, and I will trust what he put in is something great for the whole city. But just to put it out on the record for everybody to hear.
Council President,
Yes, sir.
just before y'all go into that, I have no objections to it, but just for clarification, I had this conversation with Brian Brennan earlier. I didn't think we would have to go into this part. I have no problem with it. Have no problem with it as an amendment. That's what y'all choose to do. But it's just clearing up the verbiage. The legal department, just for the record, the legal department and the administration did exactly what y'all are doing. It's just clearing up the verbiage to make it more clear for everyone. So I don't want this to go down that the legal department and the administration did not do it and the council did. It's just clearing up the verbiage to make it more clear for everyone to understand.
And,
Okay.
yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I am in no way, shape, or form trying to get credit for myself or the council. I just wanted to be, I wasn't privy to that conversation or information. I want to hear it, what was proposed, because I want to hear it. I think it's good for the people to hear it also. And since you don't have an objection, you know, it's been second. And I would like for the attorney to read it in and for us to vote on it. If you don't want to vote on it, obviously that's your choice. Speaking to the council people.
Okay. So, Council Clerk, where do we go from here?
I would need the amendment clarified and then voted on it. Could you clarify the amendment, Mr. Rapier?
I haven't completely drafted out what Councilman Brennan and I had talked about, so I don't
See,
have.
So
and this,
I'll give it, I'll do my best to clarify. The amendment would be.
But
you can't do that.
That creates issues.
No.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So what is the issue?
Well,
go ahead.
here's my issue, Council President. Here's my issue. We do this wrong because we're rushing it up. We might be back here another 28 days. So this is why y'all do legislation. I do contracts. I'll say it again. I have given my commitment. I'll do it. I'm not opposed to it being done tonight as an amendment, but I feel that it's going to get screwed up. There's no other way to put it, because the legal department is not prepared. As the discussion with the original author of this, Councilman Brennan, they have not gotten through everything with Councilman Brennan's office and the city attorney's office, legal department, to make sure that we're not back here in 28 days.
That being said, this isn't our first time. We have screwed up, to use your words, 3 other times. So I don't want to screw this up either. I just want to be able to put it in correctly, that it reads.
How about I propose this?
Okay.
How about I propose this if you want an amendment? That the amendment to the ordinance says that the contract shall shall contain language that assures that the contractor pays to repair or replace any damaged or broken rollout carts. And then I can come up with better language because I'll match, that'll get you, that puts the intent in the ordinance, and then I can craft clean language to put into the contract.
I think that's a perfect compromise, and I'm not asking any more than that, Attorney. I just wanted to give like a boilerplate of what Councilman Brennan and myself would propose, and I will take that, and then as you get an opportunity to massage that, to put it in place, that would be more than acceptable for me.
Okay, so the bottom line is Gregory and Brian will get with Ed to work out the language that will be in the contract.
But no.
Huh?
I can agree.
That would be the best case scenario.
Yes, I think that's fair, Mayor, and I think that's fair, Mr. President, that Councilman Brennan and an attorney get together to work it out.
And that would be done after this, I mean,
yes,
in the next few days or whatever.
Exactly. We've talked about it. It's no secret anymore. These are our intentions. It's like the attorney said, we could always bring it up if for some reason it doesn't read in a way that Councilman Brennan and I come to some agreement with the attorney. Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're going to table the amendment then.
Yes, according to the attorney, I'm going to take his suggestion to do that and to table that amendment.
Okay. Okay.
I had a second one.
What's
I
that?
had a second
Go ahead.
amendment.
Go ahead.
My second amendment would be to not allow the CPI to consist of any years prior to July 2020 for the new contract.
Councilman, the problem with that is that the negotiated portion of the deal by the administration was that IV waste would be paid what the Ramelli contract provides for. And that's the only way to get to what the Ramelli contract provides for.
So you're saying I can't put an amendment in to change that?
We're back to who has the right to negotiate the contracts, and that's in the mayor's purview.
I'm not trying to negotiate it. I'm just putting this as an amendment in to vote on it.
But you're changing what the mayor has negotiated with the vendor.
So if we bring it up next week or next meeting, I can do it there. It could be brought up again to change, correct?
I don't believe so. Your vote is to authorize him to enter into a contract in excess of $100,000.
But you said that at the next meeting, if we wanted to change something, we could call it back up again to change it.
You have the right to recall at the very next meeting, to recall and revisit. You don't have the ability to continuously change the contract. That's the mayor's purview under the charter.
Well, the prevailing side could bring up the ordinance.
Well,
that's
correct.
Prevailing side.
The reconsideration of the ordinance.
This is
not the contract.
This is a simple vote up or down with
Yes.
the contract, with me agreeing to work with Brian's office, Councilman Brennan's office, your office, Councilman Carroll, and the legal department. On the first issue, I'm sorry.
On the first issue. The second issue is we have to have the ability to address portions of the contract that we don't. If we don't have that as the legislative branch, then what do we have? And I'm saying this is an amendment, and everybody get a chance to vote on it, to vote that either you agree to it or you don't agree to it as an amendment, like we have for every contract that I've ever participated with and voted on.
You have voted on contracts to increase caps when that cap exceeds $100,000.
So the contract exceeds $100,000. For me as a council and the council member, we cannot amend that. It's over $100,000. We can amend it.
Ed?
Yes, sir.
And That was a question. It is
No,
over
I
100.
I understand that, Councilman.
And
You have it. It's you are the charter provides that contracts over $100,000 have to be approved, have to be authorized by the council by ordinance. You are voting on the ordinance to allow the mayor to enter into the contract. You're not voting on the terms of the contract.
so where would I vote? Where would I amend on the terms of the contract?
It's
If I
That's
disagree.
the terms, that is the mayor's purview, not the council's purview.
Council President, I think Councilman Segura's had his hand up, may have a solution.
Yeah, and I have two other people, but Councilman Segura, do I go to the other two people first, or do I go to Councilman Segura? Are you gonna answer, Mike? You have an answer for this question?
I'm hoping it's an answer, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna make those two guys happy, but I don't know.
Listen to him, Michael. Go ahead, speak up.
I'll tell you what, let's see, Councilmember Hayes and Ms. Fauché, would you mind if Councilmember Segura spoke now?
Can
I would truly enjoy yielding to Councilman Segura.
Okay.
Oh, Council Chairman, Councilman Carroll actually has the floor right now.
Okay, okay.
So it's actually up to Councilman Carroll if he allows other people to interject at this point, just as a point of.
Yes, most definitely. This is why we're here. I don't have a problem with.
What do you want to do, Gregory?
I'll let Michael go first, and then Councilman Haynes go after.
Okay.
Michael Segura. Let me get that.
Councilman Segura.
Okay, as I'm sitting here listening to these discussions back and forth on certainly the charter clearly defines the mayor's right to negotiate all contracts, no matter what the dollar amount is. There is a provision that in the charter, because it was put out and said that if the dollar amount exceeds 100,000, then the council is to approve what he negotiated. That's my impression. So if I'm wrong, someone shout out. But so what I'm hearing from these proposed discussion on amendment is, one is a topic that the mayor negotiated, and Gregory, as I appreciate it, is trying to verify. Well, if you just maybe said, Mayor, I want this considered, would you commit to doing that? And he's right here and he says that, then I think that verifies his commitment to do what you are asking. Now, I don't know that I need an amendment for him to verify if that's where you're trying to go. So like Councilman Brennan and you are saying, I want this language to clarify that if a can is broken, then the contractor repairs it and fixes or replaces it. Mayor, is that not something that you would agree to put into your negotiated contract?
On the issue with Councilman Brennan brought up earlier with Councilman Carroll?
No, the second one with the repeal.
Well, I'm taking it one part at a time. So yeah.
No, look, I mean, and this is going to sound terrible the way it's going to come out, but there's no other way to say it. My job is to negotiate the contracts. I sit down with the business owners, the vendors, and they tell me, and I tell them what's good for the taxpayers. They come back and tell me what they can do and what they can allow to give back to the city or charge the city in this case for what they're able to produce that service for the people of Kenner. I bring it to the council because I've done all that work. Look, I appreciate every council person on this Zoom conference, in the Zoom council meeting, but my job every day is to do what I'm bringing to you all. I'm asking you all to either vote for it or vote against it. Hopefully you vote for it. You do not have the ability or the power to amend a contract that I have negotiated, that I've spent since January on this. Came back to you all, and we're still working with this. Tonight, I've made it clear. We have to get this thing passed. We have to get this thing passed to keep garbage collection. I have no issues working and extending the courtesy as always to this council. Councilman Brennan and I had that discussion earlier. Councilman Carroll and I have had that discussion publicly. I am not going to go commit to something on a price change now after I have negotiated that contract and got that contract where it needs to be, best for the taxpayers of Kenner, first and foremost, what I think the majority of this council appreciates, and three, what's going to work for the contractor to make sure he can produce that service to our residents. There is no one out there except the consistent group that says IV waste is not good. I'm sorry. IV waste is fantastic. They have done a lot. I sat at French Press yesterday. I watched numerous trucks go up and down, in a meeting, watched numerous trucks go up and down the street. I watched smaller dumpster vehicles go up and down the street. I've seen on the weekends street sweepers on our streets. We know we're getting the best deal for the best price. I'm not open to negotiate. I don't want anybody to walk away from this council meeting thinking that I'm open to negotiating price with IV waste. I'm not doing that. We have the best price. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Rapier. With all the discussion, the proof, which you proved with the calculator that you showed on the screen with Mr. Wetzel,
Well,
we'd be
we
in the
have-
same boat. What?
Well, I'm sorry, I thought you were finished. I was gonna
We'd be
ask
in
you.
the same boat with this price if the former contractor had charged the right price, the right charges to the city of Kenner in the next 4 or 5 years.
Additionally, Councilman Carroll, at least as to price, it changes the terms of the deal with IV, which we then may not have a contract because that we can't force IV to take a different number.
Okay, Councilman Haynes.
And I don't mean that to sound ugly, disrespectful to any councilman, but this is the job of the mayor to do what I've done. So I've done it, and now, 7:30 at night on a council meeting, I have heard nothing about these changes. And I have to go back and come back at another council meeting because I want to try to negotiate price with City Torres. Look, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm asking for, do y'all want garbage collection tomorrow morning or not? That's what it's coming down to.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Councilman Haynes has some comments.
I'm sorry, let me just say this. With taking what you, Councilman Carroll and Councilman Brennan have given me on the roll-off carts, absolutely, positively, my office will work for both of y'all's office with the legal department to meet you on that one for the clarification.
That's kind of what I was leading to, Greg, just to get, there's your verification that he will work with the city attorney and y'all to fashion the language. Now, the language that says they're guaranteed for 10 years, I didn't see anything that says that that's a manufacturer's guarantee. Mr. Rapier, what do you know what section that was? I'm trying to find it in all
It's
this.
in the definitions. It's in the definition of the roll-off cart.
Okay, but did it say that the 10-year guarantee was from the manufacturer?
The contractor is warranting it for 10 years.
Contractors warranting it, not the manufacturer. So I heard that comment earlier in trying to define this guarantee. This is the contractor that the mayor signs the contract with, guarantee that the cans will be guaranteed, replaced, repaired. So I'm confused about the need for that, but go for it. Now the CPI, that's a like the mayor just said, a changing of the price points. But and Mr. Wetzel and Mr. Rapier, y'all had showed me earlier when we were looking at that calculation. What they're asking, if you tried to freeze the current upcoming year CPI increases, I don't understand the value because it has nothing to do with the past. We've already accepted the 11.28 base price. So each year from here, the CPI is based on that base price. So if it goes up, it's based on that. Is that not correct?
No.
Huh?
I believe so.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so doing away with the CPI because you don't want the past years is not the right discussion. We've already established 11.28 is the price that is going to go forward. So the CPI is based on that, and it's going to change. But it would not have been any difference dollar-wise in the Ramelli contract, because we're paying him $11.28. And if the CPI goes up next year, that's the calculation. His price goes up that he could have charged, and the residents are going to be passed on. So I think this discussion got lost out there, that the $11.28 is the base price. The CPI just goes from there after that. So I don't see any need for amendment to not allow the CPI. I'm finished.
Okay.
Councilman
I got
Hayes.
Councilman Hayes.
Yeah, and then I'll close that. I mean, I'll finish up after him, unless somebody else had something to say based on what
Well, Mike is the guy who opened, so Mike ends up closing this.
I wasn't.
Yeah,
I just heard to
He's
let-
right. Yield to Hayes. It's his. He's got the floor. Yield to
Okay.
Hayes. It goes back
Okay.
to him. When he's finished, if everybody has spoken, I'll close.
I got two more people in addition. Go ahead, Councilman Hayes.
This is laughable. We did the same thing several weeks ago, bringing up amendments during the discussion. All we're hearing now is how great IV is. And I'm hearing tonight we want to change the contract. Councilman Segura is totally correct. Why would you want to redo the CPIs going back? Any long-term contract is going to be based on a yearly CPI. It could go up, it could go down. Sometimes I feel like that all we do is troll for sound bites. I really mean that. We're here tonight to let the law proceed, do what is right for this community. I'm not apologizing for anything. This administration, Councilman Carroll, has done a great job. And I said it before, they gave us the authority to vote. We have the accountability. And this administration has done a tremendous job with private citizens helping, collecting 22,700 cans. We're in a position right now, from what I received, everybody that has contacted me, not one person has asked us to continue the contract with Ramelli. Everybody is thoroughly happy with IV. And if anybody feels differently, please say so, because it's not the case. The mayor has a responsibility for doing this contract. We don't change contracts at the last minute. This is laughable when we act like this. If you would come, Councilman Carroll, to one of the pre-meetings, that's when this kind of stuff should be brought up, not as we're talking in front of the public. It doesn't work that way. So I am unbelievably amazed today at what we're saying as a governing body. That's what I should apologize. I should apologize to the citizens of Kenner, because let me tell you, this is kindergarten. I think all of y'all should go back and take some business classes. This is ridiculous to talk contract management like this. That's all I have to say. And I second the emotion, and I hope somebody calls the vote on this relatively soon.
Ms. Fauché.
So let me, oh, Deborah, you want to say something?
I most certainly do not. I pass.
Okay.
All right.
So
So
now,
I'll
okay. Go ahead, Carol, go ahead.
Yeah. First, I want to let Councilman Haynes know this is not laughable. What's laughable is this is our fourth time trying to get this straight. That's what's laughable. We didn't get it right then. So don't come across as if we did everything right, because we did. If we had, we would not be where we are. I don't need to go back to school. Maybe you want to go back to school, but you are entitled to your opinion and I'm entitled to mine. If I want to discuss it in front of the people, that is my prerogative. I don't have to go to another meeting. And if I go to another meeting, I still can talk about it in front of the public. I'm not trying to hide anything. I want to talk about it now. I want to talk about it in front of the council just to get some type of understanding where I'm coming from. I wanted to do and if you're telling me, attorney, we can't do the amendment, I get it. I'm just saying I disagree with us having to pay the CPI for those prior years. Not that I disagree with the concept of the CPI. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we should not give anybody that who was not our hired contractor at the time. And it is our responsibility to be able to talk and to address conversation at this meeting as we see fit. And I would continue to do that based on if I feel I should be. So if the attorney is telling me we can't, and if you're saying we can't, I can't amend it, I get it. I'm not trying to circumvent the mayor's authority. I never would do that. I'm not saying he didn't do a good job with this. What I'm saying is, based on your comments and Mr. Segura's, is that this is what he's come up with. He's right. If he don't want to change it, he's not going to change it. So there's no need to talk about that. My only attempt was through an amendment. If I can't do it, I am publicly saying I do not support it. And with that, we are paying more than what was promised to us for the citizens. That's my opinion. And with that, I can support it if I believe we are not paying the same amount. And as far as IV, I'm sure they're doing a great job. But a lot of people thought Ramelli was doing a great job, if you just want to say that. So I'm going to say, I'm going to pull back I've been told I can't have that amendment. I will say I don't support going back those years. And we will vote on it like you suggest as soon as we can. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, I have hands up. Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to chime in. We have 7 council persons here and of course other elected officials as well. We all need to question things in order to understand the best we can to make a good decision. Our people, the citizens of Kenner, expect that of us. And we need to do it. I don't care if it takes an hour. I don't care if it takes 3 hours. I don't care if it takes 5 hours. That's what it takes. That's what we need to do. That's our job. And I don't know what saying that we need to go back to school and all that's offensive. That's not the case at all. We need to do our jobs. And I can say this, as far as this particular issue is concerned, it's been the citizens have been put through a lot. And I don't want to see that happen again. So I plan on supporting this. If that may come to a shock to some, but I plan on supporting it because this is something that we need to get over with. As far as the funding issue, it's been carefully explained. And I appreciate Mike Wetzel and Ed Rapier chiming in and telling me that. I know I had some difficult questions. And Mayor Zahn, I appreciate you, sir, for helping and getting, everybody needs to understand the issue so they know how to vote on it. That's my feelings. Everybody's entitled to their own. That's what we're here for. Thank you very much.
Okay, I have Councilman Brennan, and then I have 2 questions. Councilman Brennan.
Thank you. I just would like to reiterate, Tom, Gregory, I understand we were supposed to ask questions, but I would also like to reiterate what Councilwoman McKinney said earlier. This has been read from page 1 to page 40. The questions have been vetted. We have done our homework, and just a couple of tweaks to it. I just don't want anyone to think we're not doing our homework or not doing our job. I know we've had numerous discussions with the administration, Mr. Rapier, with the mayor, fellow council people, and we are doing our diligence and we are doing our homework. So I just want to make that very clear. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Brennan. I have a question about what Ivy Waste has done investment-wise in the city of Kenner. Can someone tell me that? Mayor Zahn?
I'd love to take that. So, it's been really troublesome that you can't really brag about what the Kenner residents have yet, because we've been going through so much with the court cases, legal actions, and of course, numerous versions of a contract and different parts of it because of courts. But currently, this is a $5.5 million investment by IV Waste on everything that you're going to get. And when I talk about those things, I'll talk tonight about, about a 200,000, a little bit over 200,000, could be up towards 250. I don't have that price tag yet, but anywhere between $200,000 to $250,000 drop-off yard. And if you haven't seen it, and like I said, I haven't been able to brag about it for our Kenner residents or show you all everything, look behind the brake tags, the old recreation building, look behind there and look and see what you have, what the Kenner residents will have one day. It's ready to go probably in about another week. I just didn't want to say too much about it until we got past tonight. But what you have on David Drive is what you're going to have here in Kenner. People will have to be able to go here in the city of Kenner. But like we've heard for numerous years, and I've heard it since 2006, since I've held public office here in the city of Kenner, in Jefferson Parish, and then back here in the city of Kenner, it's going to be free. It's going to be free to the Kenner residents. So you'll be able to drop off those woody waste and eventually white goods. An $80,000 to $85,000 claw truck to pick up debris off the streets, which will save us money. And I'll quote some people, those cute little roll-off carts for recycling, something that Councilman Hayes stayed on me with our past contractor and also with this contractor to have a lid, save recycling, and have wheels on it. And I want to thank Councilman Hayes for doing that. You're going to get better service for the same contract price. That's probably a very important statement that needs to be made tonight. Better service for the same contract price. At the end of the day, it's the same contract price. And based on what we know about recycling, your bills will probably go down. And just stay tuned for that. So all those things together, remember, you're voting on an individual and a company that has invested $5.5 million for our Kenner residents. Not for us, even though we're Kenner residents, but for our Kenner residents. So as you're making those choices tonight, what you're deciding to do to pass the contract that I have gone back and forth and gotten to this point with, I appreciate the support of the council. I appreciate Councilman Wilmot telling me something I did not know. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate that support. We'll see where it goes from here.
Okay, Councilman Hayes.
One last thing I want you to repeat. Better service, same price. Because again, today, I heard this is going to cost the citizens more.
And you're right. But let's just be, I want you to have the right quote, Councilman Hayes. You're almost there. Better service for the same contract price. That's extremely important because I think that's where some individuals are getting stuck on.
No more will we have to pay $25 to go to the dump there on David Drive. We're going to have our own. How many years have we talked about it?
Look, there's been past price tags on that too, to cost the Kenner residents well over $1 million. When I came into office, that was something that was thrown at me right away. I know Councilman Segura had that thrown at him at one point when he served as mayor for a year. Well over $1 million. This is what it costs Kenner residents, zero. It cost Cindy Torres over $200,000, but it cost us nothing. But I know he's been the bad guy through all this along with me. Just stay tuned. I appreciate the support from tonight.
Mike, if you did the first, I did the second. If you don't have any other thing to say, I call a vote.
Wait. Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
Mike Wetzel. Wait.
Chairman,
Yes, Natalie.
He's called the question. If I'm correct, Mr. City Attorney, when someone calls the question, that ends the conversation?
Time for a vote.
Time for a vote, sir.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councilmember Segura, second by Councilmember Hayes to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes. Council members Brennan in favor, Segura's in favor, Hayes is in favor, Brannigan is in favor. Wilmot's in favor. Carol is opposed. Motion passes 6-1. Item 9C is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,710. An ordinance authorizing a public hearing and approving amendment number 2 to the fiscal year 2019 annual action plan for the proposed Community Development Block Grant CARES Act CDBG-CV funds in the amount of $287,193 for the Community Development Department.
I have a motion by Councilmember Carroll, second by Councilmember Secure to open the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
We have Tamithia Shaw to speak. Ms. Shaw?
I'm unmuted now. Thank you.
Okay.
Council members, this is as a result of COVID impacting the country. Congress passed a bill for $5 billion in support for COVID-related activities. On May 22nd, we had a public hearing through Zoom, and what the city receiving is $287,000. We got public input. We've been receiving a lot of calls, mostly for those who were working, who were now receiving unemployment, for rental assistance and utility assistance. Also, we have many businesses in the city that we want to see continue to thrive in the city. So we've worked also and spoken to Delgado. Delgado has done other classes for small businesses in the city of Kenner. So that $287,000 will be dedicated to rental assistance to those who need that to maintain their homes, and also for businesses that can take advantage of the programs offered by Delgado. Delgado is currently working with Goldman Sachs, so they're going to be getting information on how businesses can either apply for the PPP payment protection plan, also information on how they can get loans to make sure that their businesses keep afloat. Because what they found in their poll of businesses, a lot of businesses are concerned about keeping their storefronts. So we want to make sure that we offer assistance with this CARES Act funding for those businesses, and definitely offer assistance for our citizens to make sure that they're not homeless as a result of losing their job to no fault of their own. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamithia. Is there anyone in the audience wanting to address the council on this legislation?
I have
Adam, do we have it?
I have two hands up, Councilman.
Who is it?
Deborah Lejeune and Stacy.
Okay, we'll just go with whoever's first on your screen.
Miss Deborah, you can unmute yourself.
Hey, good evening. I'm confused because Ms. Shaw switched the subject. Are we still on the garbage, or are we past it?
No, we're past the garbage.
Okay, I wasn't able to address it. Okay, so I'll remain silent at this time and wait till the end of the meeting. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Adam.
All right, Miss Stacy, you can unmute yourself.
Hi there, Ms. Shaw, thank you for that report. I'm so happy that Kenner has got this money. My only question to you is, I know sometimes the city has some fantastic programs and giveaways, and then I see on social media people say, oh man, I didn't know about it. And it's just because they might have happened to miss wherever it was posted. So I was just wondering, what, when we get this money and you decide, what the application process is going to be, who's going to get the money. Are you going to put that on the City of Kenner's, I guess, the Facebook page? I mean, I think a lot of people go to that page. So I'm just curious, are you going to put it there, and where else are you going to put it so we can spread the word that, that everybody's aware that this is available. Everybody who wants to apply, can see it. Can you just maybe let us know where you're going to put that?
Are you finished, Stacy? Tamithia, you have to unmute. Tamithia, You have to unmute.
I was trying. I'm sorry,
Okay,
Councilman.
that's okay.
Thank you, Ms. Alessandra. Yes, we're going to be posting on all pages of the city. We're going to start with the city's webpage because that's the first page that we have. We're going to have what we're planning to do is do a separate webpage where you can click on and someone can go straight to the application. We are working in concert with other agencies to make sure that we can assist as many people as possible with this funding. So I'll work with our IT department. They've been wonderful. And I'm sorry, now KTV and our PIO, they've been wonderful getting information out on all platforms. So I will make sure that this reaches all platforms. For those people who don't have access, we're going to have paper applications also where someone can pick them up. So it's going to be advertised and people will know where to go, where they can get their application and where they can or either fill it out online.
Thank you, Tamithia. Adam, do we have anybody else wishing to address the council?
No, Councilman.
Okay. So we have a motion by Council Member Carroll, second by Council Member Segura to close the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
I have a motion by Council Member Carroll, second by Council Member Segura to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 9D is summary ordinance, a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,711. An ordinance authorizing a public hearing and approving the fiscal year 2020 annual action plan for the proposed community development block grant in the amount of $488,200 for the proposed home investment partnership grant in the amount of $218,152 for the community development department.
Have a motion by Council Member Carroll, second by Council Member Segura to open a public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
To Ms. Shaw, do you have anything to say about this?
Yes, this is Councilman, council people. This is going to be our annual allocation that we receive from HUD. This is what we do every year to allocate. We've had 3 public meetings in person, and of course, COVID happened. HUD put out waivers, so we were allowed to do public hearings by Zoom to adhere to all social distancing measures. Through those meetings, we got information from the public on how they want to see this money spent. And of course, now we have the impact of COVID, so we're also going to be assisting rental assistance. As of 2 weeks ago, the state had over 400,000 applicants for unemployment throughout the state. I've been working with Jefferson Parish. I don't have an actual number for the parish, but when I spoke to the workforce development director for the parish, 1 week, just Jefferson Parish had over 12,000 applications for those people who are unemployed. So we know that we're still going to need to help those people. So this action plan that you have before you is just doing that, also going through with our economic development again. If we're able to have programs in the future, we do have programs for our children because those were requested when we met in person with the community, as well as those programs that we have for our repair on wheels for our elderly persons who qualify for the program. So we're going to continue to do that and move forward, making sure that we keep our citizens in the city of Kenner, keep them housed, and also making adjustments for programs that we can do in the future, hopefully when this pandemic ends. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamithia. Council Member Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Attorney Shaw, I'd like to thank you and your organization for the support for this community development. Obviously, with the pandemic, it's just a different world to be able to get information out to people, for people to share with the information. And a large part of the population, they are just not tuned into Zoom, which makes it even harder to the point where they even refuse to even try to do it, but we still have to do what we have to do. I am glad that your department, the mayor and the administration, we have erred on the side of safety as opposed to try to force something or bring people together just for the sake of the information. That would not have been a good thing to do. So this is where we are. As the information comes available, I would like to get it and share it with all the council so we can put it on our webpage to tell people and to be able to pass out to different civic organizations and churches. So once you put that together with and actually getting the support from my administrative assistant so we can get that ready if your staff.
Absolutely. Before we're going to make sure that all council people have the information, we've got calls from every part of the city of Kenner, so it's not limited to one area. Like I said, we've had families where you know, they've been working and both parents have lost their jobs. So, you know, we need to make sure that we help people. You know, we've had some businesses that have permanently closed and not going to reopen as a result of COVID. So we, like I said, we need to make sure we get the information to the community, and I will definitely work with each one of your offices to make sure that your assistants have them. And that way people know when they can start applying all of these programs. Now, what you're voting on today always has to go to HUD to get final approval. So this is just the first step, because this is for funding that starts in July. This does not start immediately. With the 2019 funding, after today, we're going to send it to HUD to do a review. They promised to do a quick review on all these things now because they know, because our concern is now that the executive order is over for the state, the governor's moratorium on eviction goes out the window. So we want to have that program open, hopefully this month, if HUD gives us to go ahead to start helping people and let those landlords know that the help is there so they don't evict. Because I have emails now I have to answer from landlords who are interested in getting, you know, the money for their client, for their tenants, so that they don't have to go to the eviction court.
And one last question, the monies that we are hopefully, prayerfully going to receive, did it go down from last year? Did it go up? Did it stand still?
For the one you just voted on was a special allocation from the CARES Act. Last year we received 452,000. We're going to be receiving 488,000 this year. So there was a slight bump in that. However, we just still don't have enough. So I encourage everyone, I know that this is not on the forefront, but the census impacts us all. The census is how the federal government allocates funding, and not just for HUD related problems, but just for roads, for education. So we need to make sure that everyone in the city makes sure that they register, that they complete the census packet, because we want to make sure that the city of Kenner gets all of the funding that is due from the federal government.
Right. And since you brought up the census, and that was something we were working on prior to the pandemic, you coordinated with an organization for the men or women to come to our meeting to explain more detail about the census. Hopefully, as we go into different phases and we open up more of the city, I would like for you to reach out again to that organization.
We were working with the Census Bureau to make sure that, you know, some people may not have been comfortable doing it online or giving their information online. So they were going to set up mobile locations at our resource centers to make sure that we had people that were there to help them. Of course, that had to stop because of the pandemic, but once it's over and we can resume whatever our new normal is, then we'll make sure to get back with them to get that process started again.
Thank you, Attorney. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilmot. Unmute.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you as always, Ms. Shaw. It's a blessing to have you on board here in the city of Kenner and the position you are in. Great stuff, and you do a great job, and thank you very much. I just hats off. I'm a fan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hayes.
Sure. Do we also work with the Jefferson Finance Authority on some of these programs?
No, we've been working with the Jefferson Community Development because they have actually like 1.5 million because of the proportion sent from HUD. So we're working with him, but I've worked, when I was in the parish, I did work directly with the Finance Authority in Jefferson Parish. So I can work with them to see if they have any allocations of funding and what they can help do because they mostly do with home ownership assistance. But I can see what other programs they have, because I know the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority, even though they help with home ownership, they have also been given money for rental assistance. So I'll work with them, Councilman Hayes, to make sure that we have all of the resources covered, because we already know going in, we won't be able to help everyone. So that's why we've been working with the parish to make sure, because even though we're our own municipal government, the citizens of Kenner pay taxes in Jefferson Parish. We want to make sure that they can assist them also.
Is it possible at some later date that you could come and give us a presentation on the number of people that we are helping under these programs? You know, we talk about macro numbers, 400,000, 480,000. How many families and individuals are we really helping in what categories?
We do a CAPER report. I came in after the program started, but we do every September 30th, but it's been waived now. HUD is saying December, but that CAPER report makes us give the numbers of the people we've assisted through the year. So I can come and give that presentation to you.
It would be meaningful to everybody to see exactly how this is impacting the community.
Okay.
Okay, Adam, do we have anyone from the audience?
Yes, Councilman. Stacy's hand is up.
Okay, can you bring her in?
Stacy, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Ms. Shaw. I actually had two separate questions about this, and the second one is only going to take about a 20-second answer. Do you mind if I ask you the first question and then we'll go and just answer my second question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my question with this particular program, as you guys know, I'm a real estate agent, and I deal with a lot of renters. I've helped people, find houses to rent in Kenner. In fact, I sold a fourplex to a family in February in Kenner. So I have a lot of experience with renters, and unfortunately, there are a lot of people, as there are just worldwide or nationwide, that are not paying their rent. They're taking it. Some people legitimately just can't pay it. That's just a fact. But some people that can pay it, or they're getting the $847 a week in unemployment, they're getting other help and everything. They can pay their rent. They're just choosing to take advantage of this time because they know that the landlords can't kick them out. So some people, thank you, Council President. Some people are just choosing not to pay their rent. And I was wondering, can any of this money be used to help those landlords who still have that mortgage to pay? They have no recourse. There's nothing they can do. They can't, if they have a federally backed loan, they can't even start evicting these people now. Can any of that money be used to help those citizens? And then my second part of that first question is, could we make a requirement that if we do help people with rent, that help has to go to their current landlord? They can't just skip out thousands of dollars and then just skip out because now we're going to help them with rent or deposit at a new place. So that's my first question.
Okay. Well, with all of our programs, these programs, every program through CDBG and Home is a gap financing. So what we're required to do is put in your income into what's called a HUD, a 1 CPD calculator. And it tells us, one, if you're eligible for the program, and two, it requires us to determine what you can pay. We've had situations, even when I was in the parish as the director there, that someone may come to get assistance for homeless prevention where they couldn't pay all the rent, but we look at and see what they could pay and then make up the difference. So this is not we just give out program. And first of all, the program requirements, the policies and procedures are going to say that if you owe money prior to the implementation of the executive order by the governor, we're not going to be covering that, and you won't even be eligible for the program. So there's some things in place that we have now that will, look at, like I said, because it's a gap measure. It's not meant to be, these programs are meant to make people self-sufficient. They're not there forever and always, but there are some people who need a little bit more assistance. So even with this program we're talking about doing, we're looking at people who are, over 62 years as a priority. We're looking at people who have court convictions as a priority. We're looking at people who have children under 6 years old, and then people who have children under 18. So they're going to be priorities that are going to be looked at to make sure that we're helping the most vulnerable population, because that's what this program is designed to do.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so the second part of my question, I was really excited, again, as a real estate agent, when I saw the word home in this, the wording of this. So, but then I thought this was going to be dealing with the first time home buyer money, but obviously it's not. I know normally around July, we usually start getting our first time home buyers in with the first time home buyer grant program. I personally have 2 young families waiting, pre-approved. They're just waiting for that program to get started. Any update you can give us on that?
Well, let me say this to you.
Thank
We don't have any funds allocated, but I've been working with Jefferson Parish with the person who I used to be in charge and supervise. So because it's home funding, they can go to Jefferson Parish and get the same services we have here, because Jefferson has a lot more funding available for first-time home buyers. Like I said, when we're talking about doing these programs, we have to meet, because we don't get as much. Jefferson gets about maybe 1.2 million based on, like I said, the population and the allocation sent from Congress. We get about 200,000 in home funding every year. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we cover those priority needs first, and then we go to, so if there's someone like you have in your situation, they can contact 736-6262 and ask for assistance with the first-time home buyer program. So that's why I'm saying we're working across the lines, because we are in a consortium with Jefferson Parish, so they don't have to. And like I said, the citizen in Kenner pays taxes like the Jefferson Parish resident, so they can contact and get the first time home buyer, just like Councilman Hayes suggested with the Jefferson Finance Authority. It does not limit you because you live in the city of Kenner from not getting that assistance. So we've had people who've gotten, when I was in Jefferson Parish, they got money from us as the parish, and they also got money from the Finance Authority to assist them with buying and purchasing their first home. So, and even though the regulations are different for each program, they have had people who've taken advantage of those things. So, like I said, because we are limited in the funding that we receive, and that's why I keep saying about the importance of the census, because I think with the correct census number, Kenner can be getting a lot more money than we're allocated at this point.
Okay, so I guess just to reiterate, just what I'm understanding that you're saying is basically Kenner is not going to use any of their money right now. You're using it for more important things, but
because the reason is that, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Stacey, I'm so sorry. We usually give about 60 up to, well, we were giving 50, but up to 60. But as you know, as a real estate agent, the property values in the city of Kenner are so much higher. So even if we would help maybe 4 people, but we have so many other people we need to help with other programs. So to use that for just 4 families, I think right now is not the priority. We would need to help more families, but it's not that they can't take advantage of it, because there is money available in Jefferson Parish right now.
No, I understand that, and I think that's great. I agree with what you're doing, so thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Adam, do we have anybody else?
I see no other hands raised, Councilman.
Any other councilman members? Okay. We have a motion by Council Member Carroll, second by Council Member Segura, to close the public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
We have a motion by Council Member Carroll, second by Council Member Segura, to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. We have none. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution opposing Senate Bill 189 of the 2020 regular session of the Louisiana Legislature.
We have a motion by Council Member Wilmot, second by Council Member McKinney. But I had a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. This was talked about earlier in the meeting about the money that was being taken from municipalities. That's this legislation. I think we talked about it about almost 3 hours ago. I would love for, I know the mayor and the police chief have put their names on this legislation. If the rest of the council would like to do that, that's totally your call if you want to have your name added to this legislation. Does anyone have anything to say? Councilman Carroll?
Yes, I'd like to be added to the legislation.
Wilmot? Okay, you watching that?
Yep, everybody's a go to be added. Sounds good.
Trustee? Okay, so just add everybody to it.
Mr. Chairman, did
Yes, sir.
we all do our own letters in support? I did a letter of support. I thought
Yeah,
we
I
all
did.
letters.
Yeah, I did too.
I did.
Excuse me, you all did letters of support, the mayor did, and the 7 council members did, and we packaged all of those up and sent those to the Jefferson delegation so that they could go to the governor.
Okay. All right, so motion by Councilmember Wilmot, second by Councilmember Kenny. To approve, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 13B is a resolution Council Rule 7 of the Rules of Organization, Business Order and Procedure of the Council of the City of Kenner, and rescheduling the Kenner City Council meeting of July 2nd, 2020 to July 9th, 2020, and rescheduling the Kenner City Council meeting of July 17th, 2020 to July 24th, 2020.
We have a motion by Councilmember Hayes, second by Councilmember Brannigan. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,712, an ordinance ratifying the prudential policy and rates for life insurance coverage for the City of Kenner employees for July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, as set forth in their proposal.
I got a motion by Councilmember Brennan, second by Councilmember Hayes. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Wait a minute, hold on. I still have Councilmember Wilmot with us?
Yes.
Okay. There you are.
Yes.
Sorry, I just needed to make sure. Okay, motion passes 7-0. 15B is a resolution approving change order number 5 to the agreement with Barrier Construction Company, LLC, dated November 20th, 2017, regarding the New Orleans Airport Connector Road. State project number H.011276, federal aid project number H.011276, Kenner Public Works project number 2014-003-A-RB for an increase to the contract amount by $255,567.21 for the Department of Public Works.
We have a motion by Councilmember Carroll, second by Councilmember Brennan. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is a resolution amending Rule 11, 12, and 13.1 of the Rules of Organization, Business Order, and Procedure of the Council of the City of Kenner. Item 16B is an ordinance amending the revenues in the 2019-2020 operating budget due to revenue shortfalls and amending the 2019-2020 operating and capital budgets for prior years' capital budgets to cover the revenue shortfall. Item 16C is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Casco Industries Incorporated for the purchase of personal protective equipment terminal for the fire department in accordance with bid number 19-24 and an amount not to exceed $78,468.75. Item 16D is an ordinance ratifying the proposal for excess workers' compensation insurance for the period of July 1st, 2020 through July 1st, 2021. Item 16E is an ordinance ratifying the proposal for casualty package insurance for the period of July 1st, 2020 through July 1st, 2021. Item 17 is reports from the council and our special committees.
Councilmember Segura.
I know we talked a little bit about it earlier, but that's been some time ago, it seems like. So just want to remind everybody about the tropical storm this weekend, Saturday. Tomorrow, Saturday, is the time to, get yourself prepared, get your yards and pick up your items so they don't get blown around, and check the drain culverts, make sure they're clear, and let's all be safe and make it through this little for this weekend.
Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this is a couple of, as it relates to different individuals and different organizations that have been supportive to the city of Kenner. First, I'd like to thank Chief Glazer for his immediate response to some unfortunate comments that was made by a former Kenner policeman. One, to show where his department is at, and to make sure to clear up any misunderstanding about some people thinking that it was a present officer in the city of Kenner. Two, I'd like to thank the planning department and community development with both directors for the upcoming meeting for the Greenwood apartments that are going to be rebuilt in the Lincoln Manor subdivision. These particular complexes have been there for over 50 years. So obviously it's time for some upgrades, and I'm sure once the people, once this is cleared up, all of the negotiations, contractual obligations are done, the people in Lincoln Manor will be better for this. Also like to thank the Glory of God Community Church, along with Second Harvest. They had a food bank last Friday, also for general services that's provided the city of Kenner and Second Harvest and the church with the support of the church members. For that, we really appreciate it, particularly during this time of need in the city of Kenner and surrounding area. Also on June 12th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., New Hope Community Church will have a COVID testing at the which is located at 2715 Gadsden Street. And it will be from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and for people who are 2 years old and older. So we should be able to have additional information, if there is any, on the website on Monday. But this is a great opportunity for people, particularly in the South Kenner area and Kenner overall, if they have the desire to be tested, to be able to come in for free to get tested. And finally, to thank the food bank and all of the mayor, CRC, and all of the food giveaways and Second Harvest. I'm just finding out today what they have done to support the city of Kenner. Listen, we all are going through some stuff. All of these different organizations really didn't have to. There are many places they could have gone, but to be able to support the city of Kenner, we will want to thank them and thank everybody, all the volunteers, all the city workers that have come out to support the people in the city of Kenner during this time of need. So thank everybody for their support, and that'll be it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilmember Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just had a quick question for Ms. Foshi. If she could elaborate, if she has any information on the current status of the recycling, how is it going today? You got to unmute.
You got to unmute, Deborah.
There you go.
Adam has to unmute me. I'm part of the crowd that doesn't have permission.
Oh.
And I'll have a better report next week when it's not so late and we haven't all been at this so long, but I have got some just excellent news. We received today both our recycling tickets as well as our first month's set of invoices for our dumpsters. And I can't tell you how much the dumpsters are less, but what I can tell you is in the month of May, we recycled City of Kenner more than 40 tons. 40 tons. That is so awesome. So hopefully next meeting, we'll do some comparisons. As you know, we do not have a lot of data, but at least we can compare our bills. We'll be able to tell you what our tipping fees were this year, this time last year, and this time this year. And so it's really exciting. It's only been a month and it's already looking like we're saving some money for our constituents.
Very good news. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Hayes?
Deborah, do we have an idea how many recycled cans we have out there?
Unmute.
No? Okay.
Hold on, sorry, I don't have control. I have to wait for Adam to unmute me. How many recycling cans? No, at this point I do not. They're not completely done. There's still a few more to go, But I will, for the next meeting, put together a report that this is how many cans that have been turned out. This is what the weights are. And also, as you know, part of the plan with this recycling center is to divert woody waste from the sanitary stream. In other words, take the bulky thing to the C&D landfill where you pay by a cubic yard, as opposed to the sanitary landfill where you're paying by weight. That should reduce our tipping fees substantially once we get super organized about that. So anyway, at this point, I don't have those numbers, Councilman, but we will have better numbers for you by next council meeting.
I think they're going to be close to 10,000, which is going to be good news.
Wow, that's great.
Okay, well, we need to make sure that we push recycling. And I guess as council president, I've been the lucky guy to have the longest meetings ever in the city of Canal. So let's see how the next one goes, because my term ends in 2 weeks. Anyone else have anything to say? Okay, Natalie?
Item 18 is new business. We have none. Item 19 is unfinished business and no motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Adam?
Miss Stacy has her hand up.
Okay.
Stacy, you can unmute yourself.
Wow, I wasn't prepared to go first. Okay, so, just a couple of things I wanted to point out. Like when Mr. Hayes called for the question, you guys immediately shut debate down and voted on the item. I thought when you called the question, you were supposed to vote on whether to end debate at that point, not vote on the item. So I'm just pointing that out. I think that was done incorrectly, but I could be wrong. My other thing is that with the CPI in the contract, I wish somebody in the prevailing side would have brought that up for reconsideration, because there was numerous articles, news articles. I'm holding one in my hand right now from the Times-Picayune from when Councilman Segura. I was really hoping he was going to, since I couldn't talk again, I was really hoping he was going to speak up, but he didn't bring this up. But he had said, I have many residents in District 2 ask about the return of curbside recycling, and I know it's something that many other council members have also been asked about. Okay, great. And then a little while later in the article, it says, in addition, concessions made by Ramelli to waive an automatic consumer price index increase during the first year of the contract and to waive any fuel adjustments allowed the city to save $72,000. So it was an agreement with the city. Mr. Segura knows this. I'm sure he remembers this. And with Ramelli, everybody agreed that in order to bring in recycling, they were going to forego that CPI. So why now do we give that CPI to IV? I mean, if y'all don't reconsider anything, if y'all are trying to get us out of this mess, then, stop giving people reasons to complain. Just do it, and why is that CPI in there? The other thing is with these, these contracts being attached to ordinances that can be changed. I think you guys, the reason we have this mechanism in place is to stop any bad contracts. And hopefully we won't have any bad contracts, but in the future, your ordinances, I would hope that they would say that you guys are approving, giving the mayor the authority to enter into this contract. The contract can be negotiated prior. And then everybody should see the contract, and that's what lays over for 3 weeks, not suddenly all of a sudden then we see it the night of the council meeting. From now on, I really hope y'all consider changing that language from a contract to the contract. And then the last thing is with the recycling. We paid over $1 million in the last 4 years, according to the news report, for this recycling. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but no one ever said a peep while the city paid $1 million of our money. Are there any checks and balances? I mean, nobody said a peep. $1 million of our money. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Ms. Alessandro. Adam?
Yes.
Next.
Greg Teff, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, Greg Taft, 5th District. What I have is a couple comments I just want to lay out based on the article from the WWL last night. the city has been paying since 2018 for dumpsters that really didn't exist. And my question comes about, again, because I've talked about having the ability to be able to have oversight on departments and oversight on especially contracts when we have a contractor who's doing a job for us. What is the city going to do to, one, what WWL brought up as far as having fake dumpsters that we were paying for, as far as the recycling not being done like it's supposed to? Are we looking at in the administration ways that we can create a check and balance system where we can actually audit and verify what a contractor is actually doing, and is the money actually due them, or should there be a method where if it's not doing that, somebody has to review it like an auditor or something of that nature? Because right now it looks really weird that we pay a lot of money to Renali picking up trash out of bins that didn't exist. And as a citizen, it really bothers me because it's just a waste of citizen. And then for us to recruit it, obviously it's going to take some time. And I just wonder if the administration had any future plans to prevent this type of situation happening again. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Greg, are you finished? Mr. Taft?
Yes, I'm finished. Unless y'all have any questions. I mean, my statement is dealing with what are we going to do in the future. I'm done.
Okay. All right, Adam?
Councilman, Ms. Fauci.
Oh, I'm
has-
sorry, Ms. Fauci?
Can give a brief response to you right now, Mr. Taft, though there'll be a longer response coming shortly. Shortly, within the next month or so. We both created a process by which we are tracking compliance with the existing contract that's a current going forward. But we also have within the legal department the attempts to recover amounts that may have been misspent. The investigation into the dumpsters internally has been going on since December. The attempt to secure information pertaining to recycling has been going on since last August. So there's two different things. One is trying to recover, but the other is setting up a process and a protocol going forward so that we can actually detect these things. An interesting thing happened yesterday that I got a call from River Birch, like, why are you checking up on us? And it's because somebody in Public Works, namely the DCAO, had called and asked for documentation to back up some dump reports, some cost of dumping reports. So the good news is we actually are already starting to do it. We hadn't been doing it before, and it harmed some of our vendors as a consequence because they'd never seen us check up on them before. Now, going forward, we are going to ensure that we are looking for these reports and that we're reporting back to the mayor and the council on a regular basis. And that will help us make sure that we're aware of what's being done. We're getting the reports required under the contract, and we'll also be able to track for any non-compliance. We have an entire audit department, as you know, headed by Mr. Adam Campo, and they are working hard to put together a formalized program.
Thank you, Deborah. Adam?
Up next is LaFanya Sanders. You can unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. At the start of this meeting, I was a little bit disappointed that no one addressed the current racial tensions that are going on in our country. I do want to address that. As Meghan Markle addressed in her high school's graduating class on yesterday, she stated the following: the only wrong thing to say is to say nothing at all. So I've prayed that God put the right words in my mind, my mouth, and in my heart. This week has been very painful. I'm hurt, I'm disappointed, angry, exhausted, and have cried since I saw the video of George Floyd being murdered in front of all of America to see. I felt hopeless. And then last night I watched Becoming, the Michelle Obama documentary, and I felt hopeful again that there is good in this world. However, I would be remiss as a mother and educator if I do not speak out today on behalf of my children, my students, and my community. As our country reaches this flashpoint, we cannot ignore what is taking place as it relates to race and police brutality. We can either lead forward or we can move backwards, pretending as if none of this is happening. So what can we do today? First, a conversation needs to be had. I request that the Kenner Police Department, along with Mayor Benzine and Kenner City Council, publicly address the death of George Floyd and the current racial tension surrounding police brutality. There needs to be a community meeting led by our faith community and community leaders with the chief of police and all elected officials to discuss racial issues in our community by first listening to the community and then working with them to make positive and systemic changes. This needs to be ongoing. There needs to be both education surrounding systemic racism and how it affects communities of color. We cannot heal our nation and our communities without first recognizing that these issues exist. Until we all come to the same table to have uncomfortable conversations, we cannot realize the injustices that face communities that do not look like us. As we come to this table, we will see that we are more alike than we are different. Please read Genesis 1:27. I'm also requesting, Mayor Zion, that you take the mayor's pledge at www.obama.org/mayor-pledge. This is a call by my Brothers Keepers Alliance for mayors, city councils, police oversight bodies to address police use of force policies. Finally, I specifically asked the chief of police to address the killing of Armand Jaron Chauncey Brown in his front yard at 343 Webster Street, Kenner, Louisiana, on January 27, 2017, who was, in quotes, allegedly shot and killed by Officer Michael Romano of the Kenner Police Department SWAT team, as referenced in the United States District Court of Eastern Louisiana in the case Armand Brown and others versus Kenner Police Department and others, case number 17-3445, section R, who I believe is still employed with the department. You stated to the family that you cannot offer a statement or address the issue because the case was open and ongoing. However, as of December 27, I'm almost done. In this case, signed by Judge Shara Vance, the following motion was granted that the plaintiff's claims against defendant Michael Glazier are dismissed without prejudice. Therefore, the family needs a response. This family, my family, is hurting and in pain. They have never been directly addressed by the chief, the mayor, or the council. Or
Ms. Sanders, you're way over your 3 minutes.
Overdue, and I am done.
Thank you. Adam? Oh, Councilman Carroll?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to thank Ms. Sanders for her comments. And one other thing that the chief addressed in the beginning of the meeting about an upcoming event that will be held, a march or protest, I believe, the chief of police within the city of Kenner. So we should have elaborated more on that. There will be a march on Friday, I believe, starting around 5 or 6 from the corner of Vets and Williams all the way to the Susan Park playground. And then they will have an opportunity for different speakers to speak on such things that's been going on in the world, which obviously will also affect the city of Kenner. For us, for myself, for the police chief and everyone else, obviously you made some good comments about having communications. I look forward to that. I would like to thank yourself and the many young people that I see on television in different parts of the country getting involved in the things that affect you personally, affect all of us personally, and in an attempt to make things better for the coming generation. So thank you for your support. I look forward to working with you with that. But again, that function is going on Friday, starting at Veterans and Williams to Susan Park around 5 or 6 o'clock and process all the way to the Susan Park gym. So thanks again. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Anyone else? No. Adam?
Miss Deborah Lejeune, you can unmute yourself.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Deborah Lejeune. I live in Lake Trail Estates. I've been a resident for 30-something years here. My education is with Federal Express in project management and communications. I would like to address, which is also considered a dispatch operation, basically is the common word, but it's also the nervous system of any operation. I would like to address the communications that are going on in the city of Kenner through social media. We're constantly being bombarded by inaccurate information coming from different sources that is not agreeing with our mayor or our councilmen or women, excuse me, and women. And it's confusing us terribly. On the night of May the 1st, the mayor put out an order for us to immediately remove all of the trash from our garbage cans and put them on the street because of a judge voted that IV could not touch the cans. Within 15 or 20 minutes after that order, the communications on Facebook from the different kind of sites told all of the people to leave the garbage in the cans because Ramelli was filed a restraining order against us. So they chose to advise to the citizens of Kenner what they believe was going to happen and not give the communications to the citizens of Kenner of what the mayor said to happen. This is a serious problem. And because I am an originator of one of the first charters ever written in the state of Louisiana in 1980, I'm going to request that legislation and ordinance be written and prepared to protect us in the future. No one has stated today that we are under the emergency ordinance of COVID pandemic, and we have been home now since March the 12th under order to stay inside. We are phasing out, which thank God, I pray we over it, but it's 84 days now. And for anyone to give incorrect communications during an emergency by the President of the United States in this country against the city of Kenner or any communications from our mayor is unacceptable. And it really needs to be addressed. And I'm asking for y'all to please address it. In any form that's needed, I'll be more than happy to walk in and help y'all with any legislation you need to pass this law. I refuse to let it watch again. Okay, first of all, I want to hurry up and thank the mayor and all the councilmen for everything that you've done for us in the last 80 days, especially through all of this. I want to thank the mayor and the people who have supported the mayor in feeding all the people of Kenner. I'm deeply grateful that the city of Kenner has stayed calm through this. And I see you, Mr. President, just please, I'm positive.
Okay.
This is positive.
Okay.
I just want to thank everybody. And you made me forget where I was. I'm praying for Kenner. Tomorrow, we're getting ready to, on Friday, we're going to have a walk. I'm praying for peace. I know, Mr. President. I'm praying for peace for the city of Kenner. We have peace right now without everyone's been showed that we can live in peace and shown by our government that they want to take care of us and protect us. And I'm just asking everyone to stay in peace. And I'm asking the people who continue to shed the false information, stop. I will support the mayor to take down every false communication that comes across. It has to end. You're harming the citizens. Yes,
Deborah?
sir. I see. I'm 1 minute over.
Yeah, you're over. I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. I think I hope I said enough.
Positive comments, but I got to stop you. It's my job.
Yes, sir. I know. I didn't get to touch.
Councilman?
Who's next?
Up next is Richard Brown.
Let him in.
Mr. Brown, you can unmute yourself.
I think I am unmuted.
Yes.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. By the way, Mr. Chairman, before I forget it, I know this is your next to last meeting as council president, and I want to congratulate you on having done an outstanding job for the last 6 months and over some very trying times and some very difficult meetings, and you have presided with class. So I appreciate it and I thank you.
Thank you.
Wanted to follow up on a comment Stacy Alessandro made and something that I actually typed into the chat box because I thought it was such an egregious breach that I had to say something. But Stacy Alessandro was right when she said that, a motion to end debate for the previous question. It's a motion. It's a motion to end debate. And it has to be voted on first. It takes a 2/3 vote. One member cannot arbitrarily, single-handedly stop debate like y'all did a while ago. Member makes a motion to end debate, whether you call it previous question or whatever, you immediately vote on it. It takes a 2/3 vote. If it passes, then debate is ended. But that mistake happens. It was a mistake, but I wanted to point it out as well. And another comment, this has to do with the ordinance approving the IV waste contract. A couple of council members, particularly Mr. Segur and Mr. Hayes, apparently talked to us as if we just don't understand, if we don't understand CPI increases. And we most certainly do. Nobody who spoke tonight, nobody, not me, not anybody, said we were opposed to CPI increases. What we were opposed to is a CPI increase going back to 2015 based on the old Ramelli price and including CPI increases that Ramelli passed up in agreement with the city. But like Stacy said, Councilman Segur, when he was acting mayor, they agreed on this and he was praising Ramelli for passing up that increase, which enabled the city to do other things such as starting recycling. We understand CPI increases. We're all for it, but it needs to start going forward, and it needs to start with the current price and not reach back. And the final comment in the few seconds I've got, I have a question for the city attorney, a two-part question. Mr. Rapier, is it your opinion or understanding that the mayor can arbitrarily change the terms in a contract after the council approves it? And also, is it your opinion that the council has no authority to amend a contract that is up for approval? That's all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay, Adam.
Up next is Al Morella.
Okay. Al.
Let me know when you're ready, man.
All right, go ahead.
Go.
Okay, Amarella, 4260 East Royola Drive, 5th District, 48 years. I want to start off by extending my condolences and my prayers to the Bentel family for Mr. Henry Bentel, who recently passed away, was a resident of Kenner for 53 years. I also want to extend my prayers and my condolences to the Canella family. Judge James Canella, who was briefly our city attorney under the Munez administration. Okay, now I want to direct this to the mayor. I want to try to put this lengthy discussion tonight over this solid waste contract into a little perspective. First of all, when Lee Roussel was the city attorney and Mr. Rapier, you sat right next to her, there were items on that first reading, and she repeatedly, over and over and over again, stated that on first reading, those items had to lay over for 28 days before they were voted on. But we here tonight, because the majority of the council voted on that contract, and it was not laid over for 28 days. The mayor had no option other than to put an emergency ordinance on that agenda to get the solid waste collected in this city. Now, I want to remind this council of something. This happened long before any of you all were ever here. We had a problem one time with waste management when they had the contract. And the people of Kenner's solid waste sat out there for weeks. They got mad, they loaded it up in their pickup trucks, and they deposited it on the doorstep of City Hall. I'm sure we don't want none of this to happen again. I don't want to see this ever happen again. But I can tell you something, that's something you guys need to remember. And the next time you see something on first reading, please observe the 28-day rule so we don't have to go through something like this again. Now, to reiterate what the mayor said about the brake taxation, all one has to do is pick up the phone and call City Hall and get the status of the brake taxation like I did. Now, one thing the mayor didn't say, that when it does reopen, you have 30 days to renew your brake tag. Not 5 days, grace period. They're going to give you a full month when they reopen to get that brake tag. The city of Kenner, the police department is not issuing any tickets for expired brake tags because of this. Okay? Now, in closing, I want to say this real quick. To reiterate what Councilman Hayes said earlier. Yes, that legislation in Baton Rouge has passed. Okay? We got $511 million is going to be divided up to the local governments instead
10
of
seconds.
300 is going to small businesses. We need to make sure that we try to keep as much work in-house, analyzing our departments as we can before we start awarding contracts.
Al,
Because our sales taxes
You're going over time, Al.
Al, you're 3 minutes.
Anybody
Al,
got any comments, any questions? Any
thank
comments?
you,
any
Al.
questions?
All right, Adam.
All right, next up is Mr. Zach Frigo. Sorry.
Councilman Carroll wants to speak.
Yeah, I just have to, thank you, Mr. President. I would just like the attorney to answer Mr. Brown's last questions as it relates to his two questions about the mayor changing a contract and about the council amending. I would like for him to answer that question, those questions.
Councilman Carroll, I don't give legal advice to the citizens. I will put a legal opinion together, but I'm not going to render that here in the council meeting.
So you're going to put an opinion together based on, you're going to.
I will take a look at it, Councilman Carroll. I don't provide, my job is not to provide legal advice or legal answers to citizens.
What about me if I ask?
I will put a memorandum together for you.
Okay, so I'm asking for you to be able to address that, both of those questions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Adam Campo.
Up next, I'm sorry, is Jackie Brown. I was out of order.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Brown, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. Good evening. Jacqueline Brown Cockerham, 2610 Decatur Street, Apartment A, Kenner, Louisiana. My concern is, and I know I speak to Mayor Zahn and Mr. Muhammad and whomever's around, Miss Rousseau, Miss Debbie, and we greet each other always with a smile. But I want you to know that my heart aches today. And as Councilman Segura stated, it's very disheartening to know that in spite of all that's going on in the country today, that I could not hear from not one of my council people who I call and consider my friends and associates to speak on the murder of George Floyd, along with a lot of other Black people that's going on in the country. I really thought that I would have heard something to the effect, but I heard a lot about the garbage and the giveaways and the brake tags and the flooding and the storm. All that's important. But I wish at least one of you would have addressed, had the confidence and the boldness to address the situation with George Floyd, Armand Jaron Brown, all these deaths that are occurring in with Black and brown people. Mayor Zahn and Chief Glazer, when can the residents, civic associations, whomever meet with you regarding your position and Kenner's position on police brutality, on police policies and changes to make Kenner a better place for those of us who are Black and brown. We are just as concerned about our safety, our loved ones, as anyone else is, including you. We work here, we raise our families here, we pay taxes, we vote, and we do not intend to see our loved ones, our children and relatives die on the streets of Kenner again. Help me, somebody tell me, what is it that you will do for the people, the Black people and the brown people here in Kenner? Thank you very much.
Councilman, you're muted.
Adam,
Hey.
next.
Up next is Mr. Zach Frigo. Zach, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to bring up one thing real quick about the cans. I keep seeing a lot of people talking about the wheels online, and I made a video. I shared it to all 6 Facebook groups, so I'm sure a lot of people saw it. Basically, the cans are a quick release, have quick release wheels. Some of them weren't put on all the way. All you gotta do is simply snap them back on, and they're permanently fixed on. They're not gonna come back loose again. But what I really wanted to talk about real quick was the intersection of East Leola and Leola. The pedestrian crossing here is very dangerous. The stop bar is actually to where the cars are blocking the sidewalk to where you cannot cross. I sent images to every council member, including my own, and also to the mayor's secretary. I understand there's a lot of important things going on. This isn't that important, but it's something I want you to look at. It's a very easy and cheap fix. All we have to do is simply move the stop bar paint 3 feet back, and that will clear this intersection up to where it's no longer blocking bicyclists and blocking walkers from crossing. And I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, I saw a guy in one of those mobility scooters trying to cross. He had to wait 2 light cycles for a car to finally stop for him. And I'm almost done at 1 minute. So I just want to make sure if my councilman District 5 and also that large councilman can maybe check out this intersection and get a look at it and maybe look at the pictures I sent you. And that's it. I know this meeting ran long. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. I'm sure Councilmember Brennan will take care of that issue. Adam Campo.
George.
Sorry.
Oh,
Excuse me, George.
Councilman Brennan, I'm sorry.
Zach, thank you. And yes, we did get the email last month. It has been reported. Public Works is looking into it. I did receive your email again today, and we did talk to Mark Glorioso. It may involve a traffic study, but it is on the radar. It is being looked into, and it is being investigated. We'll do our best to get it corrected as soon as possible. So thank you for sending that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Adam.
Up next is Mr. Kenny Ford. Mr. Ford, you can unmute yourself.
Hey, good evening. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
I just wanted to say, I think everybody is probably now getting a little tired of hearing about Ramelli. So I think we should just move on with Ivy. I'm glad y'all voted tonight to allow the mayor to work on the contract with Ivy. And just move on from Ramelli and get him out of the way, move to the future. Also, I just wanted to comment on a comment that somebody made just a few minutes ago in regards to the brake tag station. I am pretty 100% sure that Mayor Zahn did say that there would be a grace period once the brake tag station opened back up. So just wanted to say that. So y'all have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Mayor Zahn.
Mr. Ford's correct. I didn't want to go back and forth with Mr. Morello before, but it was might have sounded like I said 5 days, but it's 45 days. So I appreciate Mr. Ford correcting that.
Okay. Adam Campo, do we have anyone else?
I see no other hands, Councilman.
Motion to adjourn. Councilman Segura seconds. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
somebody said anything back that week.